made on that?
Yeah, there's been progress made, and I will say, it's not the job of CEOs. No one's ever made money just waiting on congressional action, betting on what congressional action might or might not do. So what we need to do as airlines, as the people running the companies today, is find the solutions that we can work on today, like carbon offsets, like sustainable aviation fuel.
So how about airlines contributing? How about airlines contributing to an infrastructure that would enable them to save fuel costs by not spending as much time circulating, that would enable the scarce landing slots to be used? Don't you think the airline industry should be willing to contribute to the air traffic control system we need?
Yeah,
really?
Absolutely. We have next gen equipment on our aircraft. That aircraft needs to talk to other parts of the system. Government does need to build out some of that. And every time we land a plane, every time we fly a plane, there's so much going on. There's so many ways that we can be reducing those emissions. And what we're really looking for is the ways that affect the customer today, because this is a customer-driven revolution.
You can see more of our discussion on Wall Street Week airing tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on Bloomberg Television and on radio. It's also available on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on the terminal. And as climate change becomes a defining issue of our time, Bloomberg has launched Bloomberg Green, which uses data and in-depth reporting to illustrate the scale of the challenge. Find that on the terminal, online, and here on Bloomberg Television and radio. Coming up, Balance of Power continues over on Bloomberg Radio. In our second hour, we're going to have more on the coronavirus with Dr. Shi Chen of the Yale School of Public Health. Live from New York, this is Balance of Power on Bloomberg Television and on radio.
This is a Bloomberg Pursuits look at luxury. If New York's high-end department stores set the trend, stores in the rest of the country might sell cocktails along with neckties and shoes. Goodman's Bar opened this month at the Bergdorf Goodman. There are bars also at Manhattan's Nordstrom's new men's and women's stores, the city's flagship Saks Fifth Avenue, and Neiman Marcus stores. A Goodman's Bar consultant says a round of drinks sells a second pair of shoes. One of the biggest trends in high-end cruising is extremely small. It's the opposite in some ways of everything you'd expect, even from a luxury cruise brand. It's all about tiny, independently owned ships, boats, and barges, floating boutique hotels, if you will. Unlike conventional small ships, which can carry as many as 1,000 guests, these consist of just a handful of rooms on water. While the boats from large companies are often designed to rotate through a number of destinations, these are location-specific, giving them a sense of place that only land-bound counterparts can claim. I'm Andrew O'Day, Bloomberg Radio.
When you put together the puzzle that's today's business and political environment,
can you make a call given this swirl of data?
Is that already being reflected in the way that they're priced?
Make sure you have all the pieces.
Which segments of Alphabet's business are most likely to come under scrutiny?
They're getting mixed signals from governments.
He's failed to gain traction. Will he have to abide by a subpoena?
Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business, Radio.com, and iHeartRadio apps, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Tom has been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. And I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. I was really starting to worry.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Elite advisory firms rely on BNY Mellon's Pershing to meet the needs of their most complex clients. Karen Novak, Chief Operating Officer at Pershing Advisor Solutions, explains how.
At BNY Mellon's Pershing, we bring customized insights and strategies to help you grow your advisory business and stay on the leading edge. We can support the needs of your most sophisticated clients with a full range of investment and wealth management solutions, from access to private banking to consolidated bank and brokerage custody. Learn why so many of the largest advisory firms turn to us for the financial strength and high-touch service that BNY Mellon's Pershing can provide. Are you well positioned to stand out from your competition?
Learn more at Pershing.com or call 800-445-4467. Brokerage custody provided by Pershing LLC and other services provided by Pershing Advisor Solutions LLC. Both members of FINRA and SIPC. Private banking and bank custody provided by BNY Mellon N.A. Member FDIC.
From the financial capital of the world, 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg Radio.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. It is a down Friday. The spread of a deadly respiratory virus rattling global markets, sending U.S. stocks lower and fueling demand for havens in government bonds and gold. Oil down for a fourth day on concern the outbreak will dent economic growth. West Texas Intermediate crude down 2.5% right now, 54.19 a barrel. Brent 60.55. Barrel of Brent down by 2.4%. 10 years up 12.30 seconds. The yield now 1.68%. Equities lower across the board here with the S&P on track for its biggest drop in 3 weeks. Amid reports that U.S. officials have confirmed 2 more cases of the illness, which originated in China but has also spread to Japan, South Korea, and Singapore. S&P now lower by 21 points, down 0.6%. The Dow down 125, down 0.4, and NASDAQ lower by 48, a drop there of 0.5%. Gold pushing higher, up 0.6 now at 15.72 the ounce. Bloomberg Radio and Television caught up with European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde today at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, where she talked about a number of topics, including the ECB's strategy review.
I told them on day one, I said, don't overinterpret. We will say what we can say. And I know that some people are disappointed that we haven't said much more yesterday. But a strategy review starts here, finishes there, and you cannot here say what you're going to do there. Otherwise, you don't do a strategy review.
And now here, Dave Wilson with the Market Drivers Report and a look at American depository receipts.
Thanks, Charlie. ADRs are lower. They're not quite as much as U.S. shares. The S&P ADR index is down 0.4%, and the S&P 500 is lower by 0.7%. Sweden's Ericsson has fallen 7% in U.S. trading. The phone equipment maker's fourth quarter earnings were lower than the average analyst estimate in the Bloomberg survey. Spending on U.S. 5G networks was delayed as T-Mobile US and Sprint awaited approval for a proposed merger. Germany's Continental has lost 4.2%. The tire maker is lower in response to a disappointing outlook from Finnish rival Nokian Renkaat, which unexpectedly forecasts lower earnings and sales for this year. Nokian's ADRs are down 8.3%. And China's Trip.com International has dropped 6.3%. The owner of online travel agency Ctrip is falling for a fourth day as a virus outbreak curtails Chinese travel. Ctrip said it won't charge refund fees for canceled domestic trips. And France's Carrefour has risen 2.5%. The owner of grocery and merchandise stores gave a higher earnings forecast for 2020 than analysts predicted. Charlie.
And we thank you very much, Dave Wilson, keeping track of those American depository receipts. Again, recapping the Dow, the S&P, NASDAQ, all declining. S&P down 23, a drop of 0.7%. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Balance of Power continues with David Weston.
This is Balance of Power.
We have the strongest economy by far in the world.
We're going to grow our trade relationship.
I know what's broken. I know how to fix it.
Where the world of politics meets the world of business.
They've got the money they need to run a very competitive race.
We've got now a real crunch few days for Brexit.
We want certainty in the markets. We want certainty in our trading relationships.
The administration is trying to create a new divided world.
Balance of Power with David Weston on Bloomberg Radio.
House Democrats are beginning their third and last day presenting their impeachment case against President Trump. The Bulletin of Atomic Scientists says the doomsday clock is closer to midnight than it's ever been in history. And China locks down 40 million people as a second case of the coronavirus makes its way to the United States. From the Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio, welcome to the second hour of Balance of Power. China has restricted the travel of 40 million of its citizens and ordered travel agencies to suspend sales of tour packages on the eve of the Lunar New Year, traditionally a time of peak travel as millions of Chinese return to their homes. Dr. Shi Chen of the Yale School of Public Health is still with us. Dr. Chen, thank you very much. In the first hour of Balance of Power, we talked some about the science of it. Let's talk more about the government response. What is the Chinese government doing as far as we know beyond shutting down the travel for about 40 million people?
Yeah, beyond that, the Chinese government is trying to promote more people to come out to be treated. So they make the health insurance policy. The new policy shows that they will be freely treated, unlike the out-of-pocket model. Usually China, when you go to hospital, you have to pay upfront before, in advance before you get treated. But now that's not the case. But that has to be the confirmed case. So a lot of people, the patients with suspected cases, they flooded into the hospital, but they still need to pay out of pocket. This is some experience from the friends in Wuhan. But I think another very important thing Chinese government did compared to SARS outbreak in 2003 was to very quickly, just after 8 days of the epidemic, they shared the gene sequence of the pathogen with the international community, including the WHO and all the major relevant countries. And so that fastened their progress of testing, diagnosing suspected patients at the airport and the transportation. So that was a major achievement compared to SARS outbreak. And also China, just a couple of hours ago, China decided to build 1,000-bed hospitals near Wuhan city, just a suburb of Wuhan, which is following the model they learned from the Xiaotangshan model. That was also a major hospital, was built like 6 days. In 6 days in Beijing, right after the outbreak of SARS. And that was very successfully contained the spread of the virus. So this time they want to build it even quicker speed, so they want to finish it at within 6 days. So they already select the site and the construction already going on. And also they want more volunteers of medical professionals going to the epicenter of this epidemic. So the volunteers are, as far as I know, from many provinces are now flying already to Wuhan. So from each provinces. So that will be very different. Around the number I heard was around like 5,000 medical professionals in total from every other region in China.
From what you know of the health structure, the infrastructure over there, and this is in central China, as I understand, in Wuhan, what is the choke point? Because when you talk about putting a 1,000-bed hospital in 6 days, we can't even imagine that in New York City, being able to do that. But you have to have people to work in them. What is the critical path here, and what do they need the most of that they may not have?
Yes, I think currently, the most worrisome thing is the overstretched healthcare system now, because people with some symptoms, they are in fear and they are panicked, so they go to the hospital. So there's a high risk of cross-infection, and then actually most of them actually have just a cold without the coronavirus. But they have to rush in. So I think that's the hard lesson, the main lesson China should learn from this epidemic, because in the past 10 years, China wanted to build a healthcare system. So initially, from 2009 to 2011, they thought investing in hospital is a good way to invest in health. But after that, they found the upside. So that's why they changed the way. They tried to integrate hospital with primary care. But that was a little bit late. So when they already have a big hospitals, the flow of patients and medical supplies, the resources are all going to hospital. So the primary care system is really weak in China. Like this time in Wuhan, we also say that there is no gatekeeper for people when they have any symptom. They have no one to call and to make sure they are safe or they have to be treated. So they all flooded into the hospital. Unlike the first case in America, after he got off the plane and he was calling his family doctor, there was no family doctor system in China currently. This is something on the agenda to build, but it's too late for this virus outbreak. And there's a shortage of the medical professionals locally, and there's a shortage in medical supplies and also shortage in the everyday staples.
Dr. Chen, I understand that this is a virus related to the SARS virus, but not the same as. It's different. But did we learn something in what actually happened with SARS in the end? Did it simply burn itself out? Was there a vaccine? What is the likely end of this virus whenever it comes?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, when SARS outbreak outbroke and people thought about developing a vaccine. But until today, actually, we have no vaccine for SARS even. So after the 17 years, but SARS phased out gradually after the weather getting hotter and other weather environmental conditions. So any kind of virus, the evolvement of the virus is kind of following subject to a natural selection process. So they appear and they phase out. And this one, we have no idea when it will disappear. But with the temperature getting up, so that may be very different. So you see the cases are fewer in southern China's Hainan province. But they need to act very fast because China is so highly population dense country and with so large population. So if it's spreading out, that's a major problem. So ahead of the announcement of the WHO emergency meeting, China already cut the traffic from many cities. Now it's more than 10 cities being involved. As you mentioned at the beginning, more than 40 million population have been affected.
And it's such a difficult time for the Chinese people, given that Lunar New Year, which is so important to them to travel. Yeah,
exactly. And this time more difficult compared to 17 years ago is the social media.
Right.
At that time there was no WeChat, no WhatsApp, but now it's different. So there's a lot of rumor going viral. But I think the most important thing is the transparency in any kind of epidemic. With transparency, the rumors will have no space.
Okay, many thanks now to Dr. Shi Chen of the Yale School of Public Health. Coming up, the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists say its doomsday clock is closer to midnight than ever. We talk with Robert Rossner. He's a member of the Bulletin's Science and Security Board. That's coming up next on Balance of Power on Bloomberg.
Full breakfast, cup of coffee, whatever you have in the morning, have it at daybreak.
Event risk is taking center stage for traders.
Nathan Hager.
We get a policy decision from the Federal Reserve.
And Karen Moscow.
It is the fifth major industry player to make some sort of zero commission offer.
Bloomberg Daybreak.
Bloomberg has more from Hong Kong.
Weekdays at 5 a.m. Eastern on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Okay, kids, Dad's gonna teach you how to dance. First, spread your feet apart. Then, pump your knee, nod your head, shake your hips, and bite your lip ever so slightly. Now, with one hand in the air, point at people with the other hand. I call that the rock star.
Dance like a dad. It's a great way to make a moment with your kids.
Now, make a face like it just smells something bad.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
What if you could keep the top economic experts in a conference room next to your office without having to feed them?
Do we need better optics? Do we need some substance? Do CEOs care about ESG?
We have seen quite a lot of stimulus pumped into the system already.
It's the biggest warning yet about the financial risks of climate change.
Now there are more ways to hear us. Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business, Radio.com, and iHeartRadio apps, and at BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
Are you interested in a challenge?
I used to be a bit of a rubbish sleeper. I'd toss and turn all night. And somehow I could never find the comfy bit of the mattress. It was a proper nightmare. That's what brought me here. Testing mattresses in the Which Test Lab. We use a custom-made barrel rolling machine to simulate a decade's worth of use. And the mattresses that perform best are the only ones we recommend for your bedroom.
Which tests harder so you can buy smarter. Visit which.co.uk.
Harry Bikers here. This message goes out to something very special.
Yes, we're talking to you, chicken.
Maybe we've been seeing too much of each other.
But times have changed, Dave.
We've been cheating on meat.
Thing is, no stocks make veggie dishes so irresistible that cheating on meat is proper tasty.
Our dear chicken, you were the fire in my life, but it's all about you now, aubergine katsu curry. Prepare to be wined and dined, my love.
Cheat on meat with no veggie stocks.
Keys. Check. Phone. Check. 70s playlist downloaded. Check. Nice. There's one more thing you should check before you leave. Your travel. There's a new cycleway under construction between Kensington Olympia and Brentford Town Centre, so expect delays due to lane closures at the junction of Kew Bridge Road and Chiswick High Road. Plan ahead at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
At Ring, we've reinvented the doorbell. So no matter where you are, or what time of day, you can watch over your home and the things you care about. Ring Video Doorbell streams HD video and two-way talk straight to your phone, so you can speak to whoever's at your door from anywhere.
Delivery.
Oh, great. Could you leave it with my neighbour, please?
Sure, no problem.
And it's so simple, you can install it yourself in minutes. See, hear and speak to whoever's at your door from wherever you are with Ring Video Doorbell. Available at ring.com and selected retailers.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit tunein.com/premium to upgrade.
Don't miss Super Bowl 54 because you can't watch the game on TV.
Lights in over the left guard. Touchdown.
Listen to every second of the action with your phone, tablet, computer, or connected device. All you need is a TuneIn Premium subscription.
Search Premium to upgrade today.
Like what you're listening to? Want to make getting back to it easier? Use the favorite button to keep track of the stations and podcasts you love on TuneIn. Just tap or click the heart icon to add it to your favorites. Then find all your go-to audio under the Favorites tab. Pretty easy, right?
Heading for the net. Scores! On the goal line, Marchand scores!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
And tucks it home!
And with this team, it's really fun to be a part of a team like that.
You can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium. From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
News 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. The Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all retreating. The spread of a deadly respiratory virus rattling global markets. So U.S. stocks are lower, also fueling demand for havens in government bonds and gold. 10-year up 14.30 seconds, yield 1.68%. Gold is higher by 0.7%, 15.73 the ounce, and West Texas Intermediate crude oil continues to retreat today. WTI down 2.5%. Oil, by the way, down for a fourth day. All about concern the outbreak will dent economic growth. Barrel of WTI 54.21 right now. Brent 60.60. It is down 2.3%. Equities lower. S&P down 25 at 3,300, down 0.8%. Nasdaq pulling back from yesterday's record, down 64 points, down 0.7%, and the Dow down 158 points, lower by 0.6%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Balance of Power continues with David Weston.
Thank you so much, Charlie Pellet. From the Interactive Broker Studio, this is Balance of Power on Bloomberg Radio. The Doomsday Clock was created by scientists back in 1947 to symbolize the extent to which nuclear and other threats were endangering all of mankind. As of today, it's closer to midnight than at any time in history, only 100 seconds away from total disaster. Welcome now, Robert Rossner. He's professor of astrophysics and director of the Energy Policy Institute at the University of Chicago. Dr. Rossner is a member of the Science and Security Board of the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists. That's the keeper of the Doomsday Clock. So, Dr. Rossner, welcome. Good to have you with us. Start out by explaining us what's behind this Doomsday Clock. Is there science or math that give us 100 seconds versus 120 seconds?
So I think the proper way of thinking about it is that science undergirds the way we think about these problems. Whether it's nuclear weapons or climate or disinformation, artificial intelligence, but ultimately we're aiming toward policy, public policy, and I think that was the intention right from the beginning of the bulletin of the atomic scientists. The folks that had created the bulletin, these are folks that had worked on the Manhattan Project, the first American atomic bombs. They were very concerned about how these bombs would be used, and they, in fact, formed the bulletin in order to make sure that the weapons program, the nuclear weapons program, always remained under the control of the civilian side of the federal government. They insisted on that, and so this connection between scientists that work on critical issues and their interest in making sure that policy recognizes what science has to say has been a hallmark of the bulletin since its inception. You're quite right that the clock itself dates back to 1947, but the bulletin itself actually started in 1945. Right at the end of World War II.
Well, it's not a coincidence that it was atomic scientists that are in the title of the bulletin, because, as you say, it was after the Manhattan Project and after the first use of nuclear weapons, atomic weapons, over in Japan. Let's start with that part of this most recent finding. What is increasing the risk of a possible nuclear disaster right now?
There are two elements. One is that all the major nuclear powers, the ones that are recognized as possessing nuclear weapons, are busy modernizing their stockpiles and basically rebuilding them. That's point number one. Point number two is that the various treaties that were negotiated originally with the Soviet Union and the United States are being basically abandoned.
And is that in particular the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, the INF?
That's the most recent one. Right. That's the most recent one the United States pulled out. There is now huge concern that the New START Treaty, which was a follow-on to the START Treaty that President Bush had negotiated with the Russians, New START by Obama with the Russians. That treaty is coming up for renewal early next year, and President Putin has clearly said that Russia, they would like to extend the treaty, and the Trump administration has chosen not to respond. So that's hugely worrying, because the START Treaty and the New START Treaty limited the number of nuclear weapons that we aim at each other. And, we went from tens of thousands of weapons aiming at each other to just over 1,000, actually 1,500 on each side, roughly speaking, aiming at it. And that's plenty enough. And basically removing that limit will get us right back to where we were at the worst time during the Cold War.
So you have the U.S.-Russia situation. Can you rank order that risk of possible nuclear conflagration with what's going on with Iran and our pulling out of the so-called JCPOA and the question of what happens with Europe?
Well, it's all these issues are linked by the fact that the United States is retreating from multilateralism. We're not interested anymore in treaties that involve others, except if they're bilateral. And even the bilateral case, where we abandoned that as well, as, for example, with the Russians. And part and parcel of that is the fact that even during the worst times during the Cold War, the adversaries talked to each other. The reason that we have all these treaties in the background is because the United States and the Soviets did talk to each other. We did build confidence in each other, and we were willing to come to an agreement, mutually satisfactory agreement. And we basically have stopped talking to each other. Right now, we're not talking to the Iranians. There is no prospect of us negotiating with the Iranians, as far as anyone can see. We have stopped now interacting with the North Koreans, even though there was President Trump had made an excellent start in retreating from a bellicose attitude toward North Korea, and actually had some very friendly engagement with Chairman Kim. But that's gone, and it looks like the North Koreans are going right back to rebuilding building further their nuclear arsenal. So the thing that makes us particularly concerned is the fact that we're not engaged in discussing things with our adversaries, and that is what is particularly troubling, because what we know from history is that usually the things that happen that really cause problems are accidents.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not necessarily intentional.
Exactly. Yeah, and as a result, we're now down to seconds, not just minutes on the doomsday clock. Okay, many thanks to Professor Robert Rossner of the University of Chicago. Coming up, when does political hype lapse over into actionable defamation? We talk with Christina Hall-Eichhoff from Alston and Bird about candidate Tulsi Gabbard's libel suit against Hillary Clinton. That's coming up on Balance of Power on Bloomberg Radio.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. The deadly coronavirus is spreading. In addition to a woman in the Chicago area with the deadly illness, a U.S. senator says there's a third confirmed case in the U.S., and that's sending stocks lower. The Dow falling 150 points, S&P down 25, the Nasdaq dropping 58 points. The move to zero commission trading has hurt earnings at E-Trade. The discount brokerage's revenue dropped after the firm cut commission fees on stocks, ETFs, and options. Bayer is in talks with lawyers about settling claims that the company's Roundup weed killer causes cancer. The deals could lead to a payout of about $10 billion. And there's a new trend at high-end department stores in New York City: bars. Nordstrom, Neiman Marcus, and Saks are all home to upscale bars. They hope that boozy customers will spend more. Donna Wilson, Bloomberg Radio.
Sweet strawberry icing. You're in Goodwill, and just past that vintage denim jacket you spot miniature donut earrings. You lean in. That's the scent of shopping success. Because at Goodwill, every item you buy funds local job training and more. So bring home those donut earrings and bring home so much good to your community. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
The market's in focus every business day. The P&L Podcast with Paul Sweeney and Lisa Abramowitz.
Are there some sectors that you want to have more or less exposure to?
What's behind this engine of gains?
Analysis of the day's Wall Street action.
The U.S. market looks relatively safe.
From Bloomberg Intelligence, Bloomberg Opinion, and influential newsmakers.
Ward McCarthy joins us right now.
P&L with Paul Sweeney and Lisa Abramowitz. Listen today on Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, or subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Are you interested in a challenge?
Keys. Check. Phone. Check. 70s playlist downloaded? Check. Nice. There's one more thing you should check before you leave. Your travel. There's a new cycleway under construction between Kensington Olympia and Brentford Town Centre, so expect delays due to lane closures at the junction of Kew Bridge Road and Chiswick High Road. Plan ahead at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Wendy Sanchez, live from Spain with Henry the Coconut. Henry, what are your thoughts on First Choice doing holidays for under $299 each? Henry the Coconut, could you comment, please? Look, Henry, we shaved your bristles and drew you a face. The least you could do is chat to us about First Choice holidays under $299 each. Say something! Ridiculous deals need ridiculous adverts. First Choice. Ridiculously good value. Offers per person and subject to limited availability. At all protected.
At Ring, we've reinvented the doorbell. So no matter where you are or what time of day, you can watch over your home and the things you care about. Ring Video Doorbell streams HD video and two-way talk straight to your phone, so you can speak to whoever's at your door from anywhere.
Delivery.
Oh, great. Could you leave it with my neighbour, please?
Sure, no problem.
And it's so simple, you can install it yourself in minutes. See, hear, and speak to whoever's at your door from wherever you are with Ring Video Doorbell. Available at ring.com and selected retailers.
A lot of people aren't aware that TuneIn lets you listen to the same terrestrial stations that you pick up on your FM AM dial, except you can hear them from anywhere. To see all the stations broadcasting in your area, find the local radio section on the home screen. Keep it local with TuneIn.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
Don't miss Super Bowl 54 because you can't watch the game on TV.
Lights in over the left guard. Touchdown.
Listen to every second of the action with your phone, tablet, computer, or connected device. All you need is a TuneIn Premium subscription.
Search Premium to upgrade today.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Pascal gobbles up the rebound and slams it down.
Catch your favorite NBA team right here on TuneIn.
A step back, deep three is up and in.
Search NBA on TuneIn and hear all the action. The NBA lives on TuneIn.
Right now, instead of hearing this, you could be listening to the music that keeps you moving with TuneIn Premium. Find today's biggest songs and all of your favorites commercial-free. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
You might already know that TuneIn allows you to listen to all the pro sports leagues wherever you go. But did you know TuneIn is also home to the wide world of college sports?
Open three, DeAndre Hunter got it! Handoff Carruthers, big hole right side. He leaps and he surges in, touchdown!
From live college football, basketball, and baseball games to podcasts and coaches shows fueling your love for the game in your school. And the best part is, it's all free. Search college sports to find your team or league.
Broadcasting live from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119 and around the globe. The Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Balance of Power with David Weston.
Coming up on Balance of Power, the race for the Democratic nomination for president has taken a litigious turn. We talk with Christy Hull-Eichhoff of Alston & Bird about Tulsi Gabbard's taking Hillary Clinton to court. But first, let's get a market check with Charlie Pellet.
And I thank you very much, David Weston. The Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all moving lower right now. S&P 500 index down 29 points. That's a drop of 0.9%. NASDAQ now lower by 75, down 0.8%. The Dow down 187, a drop there of 0.6%. The spread of a deadly respiratory virus is rattling global markets, sending U.S. stocks lower and fueling demand for havens in government bonds and gold. Gold is up now by 0.7%, up 10.88 the ounce at 15.73, and the 10 years up 14.30 seconds, the yield 1.68%. Oil down for a fourth day on concern the outbreak will dent economic growth. West Texas Intermediate crude oil down 2.5%, 54.16 a barrel. Brent 60.57, lower now by 2.4%. The research firm IHS Markit out with new data illustrating the travails of America's economy at the start of 2020. With that story, here's Bloomberg's Vinny Del Giudice.
The figures highlight a fragmented economy growing at a moderate pace. IHS Markit reports that business activity picked up at American service providers in early January, while manufacturers once again lost ground. Factories have been strapped by weak business investment, lackluster export markets, and the impact of White House trade policy. Vinny Del Giudice, Bloomberg Radio.
And again, recapping, it is a down Friday with the S&P falling 31 points, now down 0.9%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Balance of Power continues, the Friday edition, heading into the weekend. Once again, here's your host, David Weston.
Thank you so much, Charlie Pellet. Former Democratic candidate for President Hillary Clinton went on a podcast and talked about the risk that the Russians might be moving in to help one of the current Democratic candidates for president.
I'm not making any predictions, but I think they've got their eye on somebody who's currently in the Democratic primary and are grooming her to be the third-party candidate. She's the favorite of the Russians. They have a bunch of sites and bots and other ways of supporting her so far.
Representative Tulsi Gabbard, one of the current candidates, responded that she thought the former Secretary of State was talking about her, and she did not take it well.
I will not stand quietly by as Hillary Clinton or anyone else tries to smear my character.
Now Ms. Gabbard has sued Ms. Clinton for libel. To take us through the applicable law, we welcome Christy Hull-Eichhoff. She's partner at Alston Bird in Atlanta, and she specializes in defamation action. So welcome. It's great to have you with us. Give us a sense of exactly what Tulsi Gabbard would have to lay out and prove to prevail in this case.
Hi, David. Thank you for having me. So Tulsi Gabbard has brought a defamation lawsuit, and a defamation lawsuit is simply getting money damages for something that someone said about you that you think lowers your reputation or is disparaging to your character. However, because defamation lawsuits are seeking money damages, and money damages can be interpreted as a form of punishment for speech, any defamation suit is going to run up against the strong principles that have been developed of the First Amendment and the policies and principles of free speech. And that's going to be especially hard for Tulsi Gabbard here because she is a public official and a public figure, and under Supreme Court First Amendment jurisprudence over the years, there has been developed a strong constitutional principle that makes it very hard for public officials and public figures to actually succeed on defamation claims.
Okay, if we could, let's take it one step at a time. First of all, Hillary Clinton did not name Tulsi Gabbard. She did not issue that name from her mouth. Does that interfere with this action? She said there is someone over there who's currently in the Democratic primary that I think this is happening with. Does that give Ms. Clinton a defense?
It is one of the elements of defamation that Tulsi Gabbard is going to have to prove that the statements were about her. That's known as of and concerning. They have to be about her. And on the one hand, it is true that Hillary Clinton did not name her by name. But the cases have shown that you don't have to be named by name if a reasonable listener would have understood that she was referring to Tulsi Gabbard. And I think that's a bit of an ambiguity in this case, but the Tulsi Gabbard's lawyers have really laid out in the complaint anticipating this as a problem, and have laid out that not only was it generally interpreted by the press as referring to her, but also the next day a Hillary Clinton spokesperson made somewhat of a coy reference that further seemed to indicate that it was about Tulsi Gabbard. So that's going to be a bit of a tricky area for them, but probably not the hardest area for them.
Okay, second, is it false and defamatory? I mean, let's assume for a moment that she did, because she used the term Russian agent. It's a little ambiguous exactly how she used it, but she actually said not Russian agent, a Russian asset is what she specifically said. If that were false, and let's assume the right psychological state, that is, that she had reason to think it was false, would that be defamatory, that somebody's a Russian asset?
Well, it depends on how a reasonable person would have interpreted those remarks. And I think that this is where it might be even a little bit harder than the name recognition for Tulsi Gabbard. And that is to convince a court that this statement was intended to be and was understood to be a literal statement of fact, and not just loose hyperbolic language that was made to make a political point in the context of a political discussion. But the allegation of the complaint is that Hillary Clinton accused Tulsi Gabbard of literally being an agent of the Russian government who is essentially operating in service to the Russian government. And I think that a court is going to probably take a hard look at that and scrutinize whether that's applying too literal of an interpretation to the remark, because in First Amendment and furtherance of First Amendment principles, the benefit is going to go towards the defendant and not towards the party who's seeking to get money damages for speech.
So, Christy, you've mentioned First Amendment a couple of times in Supreme Court rulings. As I recall, it's been a while since I've looked at this. There's a standard for a public figure of being reckless. You don't have to actually intend for it to be false, but the intention is deemed to have happened if you're reckless in the assertion of this. Is that correct? And if so, would it be a defense to say, I had some reason to believe it?
It has to be at least reckless. So the standard that you're referring to, David, is called the actual malice standard that was established by the Supreme Court in the seminal New York Times versus Sullivan case. And that applies to public officials and public figures. And the idea being that, look, these people who are in the public spotlight and have a huge public national platform, if they want to combat bad speech, they have a platform for combating it. They have vehicles that they can reach the media. In fact, the next day after the Hillary Clinton podcast, Tulsi Gabbard tweeted herself to her hundreds of thousands of followers that Hillary Clinton was the queen of warmongers, the embodiment of corruption, personification of rot, etc. So the idea that courts look at is that's where political debate should play out. And that's where, if there's a war of words, it should be generally a war of words in the common marketplace of ideas and not in the courtroom. And for that reason, there is this heightened standard that requires not just that what was said was false, but that the person who said it either actually knew it was false or they acted with reckless disregard for truth or falsity. And the Supreme Court has interpreted that recklessness to mean you need to have proof that the speaker actually doubted that it was true.
So Ms. Gabbard has a tough road to hoe, it sounds like. Thank you so much. Really appreciate having you with us. Christy Hull, Eichhoff of Alston and Bird. Coming up, big upsets in women's tennis down under, a big QB retirement at the Giants, a near unanimous induction to the baseball's Hall of Fame. It's time to go over sports on a Friday on Balance of Power, and we're going to be joined by Eben Novy-Williams. That's coming up next. This is Balance of Power on Bloomberg Radio.
Asset managers who seize change to launch new strategies, add distribution channels, or exploit new technology to re-engineer the investor experience are often rewarded. However, in an industry paralyzed with complexity, few act with agility or decisively. Few run their businesses strategically, yet the most competitive managers in the market know with the right partner and a flexible operating system, you can. Go boldly toward change with SEI Investment Manager Services.
I'm Steve Meyer, president of SEI's Investment Manager Services. At SEI, we understand the emerging forces that will define success for asset managers and what firms will need to compete tomorrow. That's why we continually optimize SEI's global operating platform. If your business requires greater agility, our advanced technology, integrated best-in-class systems, and multi-asset expertise can be your catalyst for business transformation.
With SEI Investment Manager Services, you lead the charge in a competitive marketplace. Learn more at SEIC.com/seize change.
Business is constantly evolving. Is your financial printer evolving to keep ahead of the curve? At Command Financial, we are redefining financial printing by providing industry-leading expertise, leveraging technology, and honing processes and best practices. Every day, Command helps SEC registrants, as well as members of their working groups, including securities attorneys and investment bankers, prepare, file, and disseminate regulatory and disclosure documents, such as registration statements, M&A documents, and mutual fund prospectuses and reports. Command provides a full range of services to help you effectively complete your deal, meet your disclosure requirements, and achieve your shareholder communications objectives. Visit our website at commandfinancial.com and learn how we're evolving, not only with the times, but also with your business requirements. Command Financial, redefining financial printing.
In-depth analysis, concise reporting.
Keys, check. Phone, check. 70s playlist downloaded? Check. Nice. There's one more thing you should check before you leave. Your travel. There's a new cycleway under construction between Kensington Olympia and Brentford Town Centre, so expect delays due to lane closures at the junction of Kew Bridge Road and Chiswick High Road. Plan ahead at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
At Ring, we've reinvented the doorbell. So no matter where you are or what time of day, you can watch over your home and the things you care about. Ring Video Doorbell streams HD video and two-way talk straight to your phone, so you can speak to whoever's at your door from anywhere.
Delivery.
Oh, great. Could you leave it with my neighbour, please?
Sure, no problem.
And it's so simple, you can install it yourself in minutes. See, hear and speak to whoever's at your door from wherever you are with Ring Video Doorbell. Available at ring.com and selected retailers.
The Sky Broadband sale ends soon. Get a massive 30% off superfast broadband and anytime calls. It's now just £25 a month for 18 months, so you can stream, share, play or tweet in the living room, bedroom, hey, any room you like. It's usually £37 a month, but now it's just £25 a month for 18 months plus $19.95 setup. So what are you waiting for? Offer ends 6th of Feb. Visit sky.com today. Sky Fibre network areas. Speeds vary by location. Prices may change during contract. Terms apply.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Start hearing more of what you want.
Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations, live commercial-free news, and every live NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL game.
Visit tunein.com/premium to upgrade.
Don't miss Super Bowl 54 because you can't watch the game on TV.
Lights in over the left guard. Touchdown.
Listen to every second of the action with your phone, tablet, computer, or connected device. All you need is a TuneIn Premium subscription.
Search Premium to upgrade today.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards at the goal line. It's intercepted.
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught. It is in for the right side for the touchdown.
Search NFL today.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless.
Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Pascal gobbles up the rebound and slams it down.
Catch your favorite NBA team right here on TuneIn.
A step back, deep three is up and in.
Search NBA on TuneIn and hear all the action. The NBA lives on TuneIn.
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn.
It's headlines and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. Down Friday here with the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ at or near the worst level of the day right now. The Dow down 194 points, down 0.7%. S&P down 30, down 0.9%. NASDAQ slumping 80. It is down 0.9%. The why behind all of this, familiar story this week, the spread of a deadly respiratory virus rattling global markets, sending U.S. stocks lower and fueling demand for havens in government bonds and gold. The 10-year up 14.30 seconds, yield 1.68%. Gold is up 0.7%, 15.73 the ounce. And West Texas Intermediate crude down 2.6%, 54.16 a barrel on WTI. Brent slumping 2.4%, now it's 60.55. S&P, by the way, heading for its biggest drop since October. Down again by 31, down 1%. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that, David Weston, is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Thank you so much, Charlie Pellet. Live from the Interaction Brokers Studio, this is Balance of Power. I'm David Weston. The only pro football game on this weekend is the All-Star Game as we get ready for the Super Bowl a week from Sunday. But that doesn't mean that there isn't some other important sports news out there. And to give us a recap, we welcome now Bloomberg's Eben Novy-Williams. He's co-host of the Business of Sports podcast and Bloomberg radio show. So, Eben, great to have you here. I don't even know where to start, but I'm going to start with tennis because I love tennis.
Sure.
And what's going on down the Australian Open? It took them a while to get it going because of the air quality down there, but you had two huge upsets in the women's side.
Yeah, and almost three. Roger Federer almost lost last night, too. He needed a major comeback as well, yes. But Serena Williams, multi-time winner of that event, she lost in 3 sets yesterday to a relatively unknown Chinese woman.
Number 27 seed.
And then maybe even the more interesting news, Coco Gauff, she upset Naomi Osaka, the defending champion. So two, as you said, major upsets, and certainly when you look at Coco, potentially seeing the next, multi-decade star in tennis. She's 15 years old, which is pretty wild.
Exactly. Yeah. Although we said that about Naomi not that long ago, because she was pretty young when she won the U.S. Open, as I recall.
She's still pretty young, right? She's 22 years old. Yeah. We've seen this a lot, actually, with young, specifically female tennis players, because they, at least nowadays, tend to win majors at younger ages. But there is often, a sophomore or even a third-year slump for a lot of these professionals.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's maybe too early to say Naomi's going through that, but, do you remember Melanie Oudin?
Yes, sure.
Eugenie Bouchard, right, who was one of the best players in the world when she was very young and didn't really pan out as she got older. So, way too early to say that's happening to Naomi, and who knows what's going to happen with Coco. But at 15, she's not even allowed to play a full slate of professional matches yet.
But it seems one thing we can conclude, it's not a flash in the pan with Coco.
For sure, yeah, without question.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about football. We've waited long enough. We've got the Super Bowl coming up. We've presented, but first, let's talk about Eli Manning. Today, he's announced his retirement from the Giants.
Yeah, 15 years in the league, 2 Super Bowl championships. One thing that shocked me, I don't know if this will shock you, David, he's the highest paid NFL player ever. He's retiring having made $252 million, which is more than anyone's ever made on the field playing professional football. His brother is second on the list at 248, and then Drew Brees and Tom Brady, and then Aaron Rodgers. So 3 names that you would expect to be up there. But yeah, pretty amazing that Eli, obviously had some pretty big contracts in his year, and he earned them. But highest paid player in NFL history.
I did not know that at all. Now you mentioned Tom Brady. He actually tweeted out today about the retirement, and he said, "Congratulations on your retirement and a great career, Eli!" ! Not going to lie though, I wish you hadn't won any Super Bowls. Now you think
he does
joshing around, but then the Giants apparently said we joke around about this, but it's not real funny to him. Is what the Giants said. So I'm not sure. Imagine. It's a little shade there.
There's very few things that Tom Brady has not accomplished in his career, and going undefeated and winning the Super Bowl is one of them. And he has Eli Manning to thank for that.
So what about? It's too soon to talk about it maybe, but what about Hall of Fame for Eli Manning? It's not a slam dunk.
It's not a slam dunk. I would expect him to get in. I mean, don't forget the Pro Football Hall of Fame is not like Cooperstown, right? It's nowhere near as selective as baseball and the baseball writers want their Hall of Fame to be. So he won 2 Super Bowls, was a starter for a very long time, had one of the longest starting streaks of all time, right? He was tremendously healthy his entire career, well liked by the media, which surprisingly actually does matter in a lot of these things. So I would expect that he does get in.
So you mentioned Cooperstown. We had somebody elected. And so Derek Jeter, it was not a close call by any means, but he missed unanimous by 1 vote.
I think the voting on this whole thing is very fun. There's almost 450 votes, right? And he got all but one of them. That to me is unanimous. If you're 99.8% or whatever the math is, that is unanimous. There's always going to be someone who wants to be contrarian or, wants to go against the grain for X or Y reason. And we don't even know who the one writer is that left him off. But I think in the eyes of almost everybody in baseball, Jeter is a unanimous Hall of Famer. And that is going to be, from a business perspective, I remember writing 4 or 5 years ago that folks in Cooperstown were already preparing for the summer of 2020 because they knew that Derek Jeter's induction ceremony was going to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, they'd ever had there. And that still remains the case. He's a New York Yankee, so he's close to Cooperstown. Yeah. They're expecting maybe 100,000 people in town for that induction. So that's going to be a massive, massive weekend. That's a lot. Yeah, the residents, 1,800 residents full time there.
So I don't want to just brush past the All-Star game, which every year is very exciting for all of us. But maybe we should talk about the Super Bowl a week from Sunday.
Sure.
For the Kansas City Chiefs and the 49ers.
Yeah, I see this kind of almost as a changing of the guard for kind of stardom in the NFL. I think it's symbolic that Tom Brady was eliminated, Drew Brees was eliminated, Russell Wilson eliminated, Aaron Rodgers eliminated, and the 2 guys we have left are two of the most popular young quarterbacks in the NFL right now in Pat Mahomes and Jimmy Garoppolo. So I think, and this is great for the NFL as well, right? This is a star-driven league, as all leagues are. And for so long, Peyton Manning and Tom Brady were kind of the faces of the league. And if the NFL can make a seamless transition from the Brady-Manning era to the Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Jimmy Garoppolo era, I think that's a great result for the league.
So I guess I don't follow this as closely as I should, but I must say Mahomes can run. I mean, he had that running play where he ran through about 3 or 4 players to score a touchdown. He looked like a running back.
Yeah, for sure. And Lamar Jackson, I'm sure you saw him play a little bit this year. You know, he was a sensation with his feet as well. The quarterback position is changing a little bit, and these guys are kind of uniquely set up to capitalize on it. On the whole, the NFL is out there negotiating new TV deals right now. These are deals that, you know, bring in over $6 billion annually to the league. They're going to go up.
They're going up. They're not going down. Exactly.
So a very good time, I think, for the NFL right now to have those deals. Ratings across the league this year were up. You know, there's less conversation about concussions. There's less conversation about the political aspects interfering with the game. I think the NFL is hot right now at the right time.
Well, and also, as all of media seems to go to streaming when it comes to television, the fact that sports goes the other way, it stands out now. It's the one place you can really get a rating.
Not only does sports stand out, but the NFL specifically stands out from sports, right? So they're kind of 2 steps removed from that. So yes, as the media world fractures increasingly, the NFL seems to be one of those few properties that will continue to draw people to live television, and that puts them in a great bargaining position when they sit across the table from these media executives.
Exactly. Roger Goodell's looking pretty good right at the moment. Okay.
Yeah, it's a pretty easy spot right now.
Evan Newey Williams, it's great to have you with us for the Business of Sports. You got to catch that podcast, and you got to catch that radio show every weekend. In the meantime, we've got Jason Kelly here about Bloomberg Business Week. You don't want to talk sports, do you?
Do we want to talk about the Super Bowl? Because I'm going to Miami next week. We're going to be broadcasting from Radio Row Wednesday, Thursday. We've got a big Power Players Summit down in Miami on Friday. Yeah, no big whoop, quick flex.
Okay, rub it in. Yeah, I'll be here.
Yeah,
in New York.
Yeah, we'll be talking to you from there.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Yeah. We'll buy you.
I look forward to that.
But you need a new swimsuit or something.
Okay. So that's next week. What are you doing today?
Today we're going to be talking a lot. Actually, this is very appropriate for you. A lot of changes going on Wall Street. The big news from Goldman today that they won't take a company public if it has a more diverse board. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about people actually paying for research now on Wall Street. Another big story. All of that among our most read. So a lot to get into. And then we're going to tell you the 10 most popular places to live and visit overseas.
I'm looking forward to that. Absolutely. But by the way, with Goldman Sachs, you know, you hear about Larry Fink, but are people going to do something about it? If they really say we're not going to take it, that
this is a big deal.
Okay, let's go on Bloomberg Business Week. Meantime, that does it for Balance Bar for this week. I'm David Weston. Thank you for listening to Bloomberg Radio.
That saying, success breeds...
Keys. Check. Phone. Check. 70s playlist downloaded. Check. Nice. There's one more thing you should check before you leave. Your travel. There's a new cycleway under construction between Kensington Olympia and Brentford Town Centre, so expect delays due to lane closures at the junction of Kew Bridge Road and Chiswick High Road. Plan ahead at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
At Ring, we've reinvented the doorbell. So no matter where you are or what time of day, you can watch over your home and the things you care about. Ring Video Doorbell streams HD video and two-way talk straight to your phone, so you can speak to whoever's at your door from anywhere.
Delivery.
Oh, great. Could you leave it with my neighbour, please?
Sure, no problem.
And it's so simple, you can install it yourself in minutes. See, hear and speak to whoever's at your door from wherever you are with Ring Video Doorbell. Available at ring.com and selected retailers.
The Sky Broadband sale ends soon. Get a massive 30% off superfast broadband and anytime calls. It's now just £25 a month for 18 months, so you can stream, share, play or tweet in the living room, bedroom, hey, any room you like. It's usually £37 a month, but now it's just £25 a month for 18 months plus $19.95 setup. So what are you waiting for? Offer ends 6th of Feb. Visit sky.com today. Sky Fibre network areas. Speeds vary by location. Prices may change during contract. Terms apply.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards at the goal line. It's intercepted.
Listen live as the action unfolds, or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught. It is in for the right side for the touchdown.
Search NFL today. Don't miss Super Bowl 54 because you can't watch the game on TV.
Nice hit over the left guard. Touchdown.
Listen to every second of the action with your phone, tablet, computer, or connected device. All you need is a TuneIn Premium subscription.
Search Premium to upgrade today.
Go courtside with the NBA on TuneIn. With the NBA on TuneIn, hear your favorite team and players take on their biggest rivals during the biggest games throughout the year, including regular season showdowns, the 2020 All-Star Game, and the NBA Finals in June, featuring the home and away calls for all 30 teams. Plus, with the NBA on demand, relive the best moments of the season by listening to the past games in their entirety. Listen to the NBA all season long on TuneIn.
Today at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg Radio. This is Bloomberg Business Week. Insight from the reporters and editors who bring you America's most trusted business magazine. Plus, global business, finance, and tech news as it happens. Bloomberg Business Week with Carol Messer and Jason Kelly on Bloomberg Radio.
Live from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers studio and streaming on YouTube. Welcome to Bloomberg Business Week. It is Friday, January 24th. Carol Messer, along with Jason Kelly. Coming up, the spread of that deadly respiratory virus rattling global markets once again, Jason. That story is certainly top of mind, but also we've got a theme today, and that is upending the status quo, especially on Wall Street.
Wall Street really in a bit of existential angst right now, but maybe it's a good thing because a lot of big questions are being asked about the environment in many aspects, shall we say.
Perfectly said. All right, we're going to get to that over the next few hours. First up, though, let's get a check on trading. Here is Charlie Pellet.
Hi, thank you very much. The environment today, risk off with the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all declining. In fact, we are at the worst level of the day right now on the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ. 228-point drop in the Dow Jones Industrial Average, down now by 0.8%. Your S&P 500 index down 33 points. That's a decline of 1%. And NASDAQ down 88, a drop there of 0.9%. The why for all of this, certainly a familiar theme, the spread of that deadly respiratory virus, rattling global markets, sending stocks lower, fueling demand for havens in government bonds and gold. Look at the 10-year up 15, 30 seconds, the yield 1.68%. Gold up 0.6%, 15.72 the ounce. Crude selling off again today. Right now we have got the S&P 500, or the barrel of crude oil, WTI, down 2.7%. Fourth drop in a row, I might add. WTI now at 54.08. So again, recapping, the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all lower. S&P down 34, a drop there of 1%. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Charlie, thanks a lot. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Well, speaking of that theme about Wall Street sort of being upended, we're going to talk about IPOs. They're going to look a little bit different if Goldman Sachs has anything to do with it, really bringing an edge to the call for diversity.
Yep. Say goodbye, perhaps, to the all-white male
all-dude board. Yeah. Again, if Goldman has anything to say about it.
Speaking of men following women on Wall Street, yes, when it comes to ESG, so we'll get into that story.
Yeah, so much to get into, including are people going to be paying for research now directly? It's the most read story of the day. Also, we're going to hear from the CEO of the Americas for DHL Express, shipping, trade, all top of mind.
And also top of mind for Johns Hopkins, they're thinking about redoing their MBA program. So we're going to talk to the dean of that school.
And obviously, that's a key franchise for us here at Bloomberg Business Week. We work so closely with our team. We go to business schools all over the country. So seeing a real change in a major school curriculum, that could really have a broad impact.
It's a big deal. Also, a big deal is the markets on this Friday. Let's set the Business Week agenda. Elena Popina is equity markets reporter at Bloomberg News in our interactive broker studio, along with Dave Wilson, stocks editor here at Bloomberg News. Dave, set the scene here. Charlie mentioning that we're pretty much, I think, at our lows of the session here.
We are, and you've got to bear in mind, you have to go back to October 8th to see the last time the S&P 500 fell more than 1% in a day. So, it's been a while since we've seen a move like this, and it's really kind of built on itself as the day has gone on, and we found out more about the effects of the coronavirus in China, the way it's spread, a couple more cases popping up here in the U.S., so, raising the concern about what does happen, because of that. I mean, to what extent do companies get affected? Do people decide not to travel? I mean, we're sort of seeing, as we did the other day, the airlines down, the cruise lines down, the online travel companies down, not to mention the companies that own casinos in the Chinese city of Macau, where the Lunar New Year, as it looks, will not be quite so lucrative for them as it has been in the past. So, put it all together. That's definitely a focus.
So this is coming at a time where there are a lot of economic, political, financial, all sorts of headwinds happening in Asia. We're very fortunate to have Elena Popina back with us, equity markets reporter for Bloomberg, off of a job swap, I believe, over there at Bloomberg in Asia. You're just back. I mean, literally, probably still a little jet lagged at this point. What do you see over there, especially as it relates to what we're experiencing right now in the markets?
That was really a very pleasant experience for me. But I should say that we did not see a lot of Chinese tourists in Hong Kong, and that's usually the case during this time of the year. Lunar New Year is a big holiday. It's a multi-day holiday. We usually see a lot of spending. And I should mention that Chinese tourists spent about $130 billion last year. All across the board. So that situation
during the Lunar New Year,
in general for the year,
in general, okay,
$130 billion. So that's more than any other tourists in the world. So that is at a big risk right now because we are not sure about how the situation is going to shake out. But there really is a lot of uncertainty in China and in Hong Kong in particular about the pace of retail growth and about the pace of future expansion with all the protests and the virus right now going on.
I got to tell you, the thing that caught my attention this morning when I was reading it, and it relates to the virus and to Hong Kong specifically. This is what I love about Bloomberg. We don't just talk in generalizations, we put numbers on it. And there's a story on the Bloomberg terminal, and it talks about how before the pandemic started spreading, officials were expecting 3 billion airplane and train trips during the holiday rush, the lunar holiday between January 10th and February 18th. Millions more have gone abroad during this time. So if you want some perspective about why this is such a big deal, do the numbers. That's phenomenal.
Well, and the economic impact either way, of a quarantine or of,
just the general protests, right?
The general protests, exactly.
It's one on top of the other.
Right.
It leads to a big concern about the future GDP growth. It has been a big question mark around that. Now there is even more people saying, look, that 6% growth number or 6.5% growth number is not going to be sustainable.
And for people here on Wall Street, Elena, there has been this question, setting aside the virus for a second, around the Hong Kong protests, that you could see the balance of power, as it were, shift in Asia away from Hong Kong to Singapore. Did you hear people talk about that? Maybe about moving their families, their jobs? Any sort of intel you can bring us from the ground?
Yeah, and that's partly the reason why I did not stay in Hong Kong. That's a big issue right now. People are moving over to Tokyo. Some people are moving over to Singapore. Big businesses are not necessarily closing their shops right now as of yet. They're in a wait-and-see mode. But what I did hear from a lot of people is that they're not hiring new people to Hong Kong. They prefer Singapore or Japan or Tokyo for that reason.
So Dave Wilson, come on in on it. You've watched markets. You've seen so many different cycles. You've seen so many crises, global crises, and how it plays out in the markets. I mean, this situation, obviously...
She's calling you old, Dave.
No, I'm not.
I don't mind. It's okay. I've been around for a few markets
like a fine wine. You're just amazing. And so put this into perspective until we start to see either more virus cases, connect here in the United States, or I don't know. I mean, that's when we start to see maybe it even impact us even more.
There's a lot more to come, but if you kind of take a step back and look at it from a U.S. perspective, what's been keeping the U.S. economy going lately? It's been the consumer.
Yeah.
Right? Because manufacturing, not in such great shape. So, the idea that something could conceivably come along and throw a monkey wrench or a spanner, depending on which side of the Atlantic you're on, into the growth outlook, well, you can understand why people would get concerned about that. And you know what's particularly interesting today when you talk about the consumer? Two biggest declines in the S&P 500. Credit card companies, Discover Financial and Synchrony Financial. Now, their earnings beat estimates, but then again, they set aside less money for loan losses than analysts were expecting. There are some company-specific issues with Discover. It's their spending to kind of, market themselves and, build up their technology. So there's some other issues, but nonetheless, I mean, that really jumps out.
One of those credit card names among the picks of one of our guests later on today.
All right, Dave Wilson, Elena Popina, thank you both so much. We got to do the Bloomberg Businessweek Bite of the Day. I'm obsessed with this. One number that tells us a lot. Today's number, Carol, 24,600. In the wake of drummer Neil Peart's death, interest in the band Rush has surged. From January 10th through January 16th, the band sold 24,600 albums in the U.S., an increase of more than 1,000% compared with the previous week. Their 2112 LP led the way, making it number 45 in the Rolling Stone 200, moving 12,800 total album units last week.
All right, we knew he was going to do that. All right, got to get to world and national news headlines. A lot going on. Bob Moon.
Carol, a new twist this afternoon in the tug-of-war over new witnesses at President Trump's impeachment trial. The Democrat who's become essentially the lead House prosecutor, Adam Schiff, today suggesting the Republicans' refusal to allow witnesses can be overruled by Chief Justice John Roberts.
We have a very capable justice sitting in that Senate chamber, empowered by the Senate rules to decide issues of evidence and privilege.
The Senate is now into its third day and final day of hearing the presentation of the case for impeachment before Trump's lawyers get their turn tomorrow. Bloomberg's Irv Chapman is live on Capitol Hill with the latest. Irv.
Bob, Congressman Jason Crow took on the president's defenders, who said the desperately needed military aid to Ukraine was eventually released, so no harm done.
The aid was equally important as a signal to Russia of our support for Ukraine. And regardless of whether the aid was ultimately released, the delay sent a very clear signal to Russia that our support for Ukraine was wavering. And Russia was watching very closely for any sign of weakness. The damage was done.
Crow said the aid was released unexpectedly when the president's reason for delaying it, that is to press for Ukrainian investigations that would help his reelection, became explosively public. Bob?
Irv Chapman live on Capitol Hill. Thank you. The Trump administration has named a 27-year-old Border Patrol veteran to lead the agency. Rodney Scott will take over January 31st. His appointment is not subject to Senate confirmation. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Bob Moon.
In the real world, there are no rabbits in hats, crystal balls, or cards that turn into money. Instead, you get business information from top-tier analysts and experts.
What should expectations be for this latest round of negotiations?
That's actually better, isn't it?
They're both trying to say they have the upper hand.
Bloomberg Markets with Paul Sweeney and Lisa Abramowitz. Weekday mornings at 10 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Hey, it's me, their cell phone. We need to talk about something serious. I know you love me, I know you like using me wherever you are, but I feel like this isn't working out when you're driving. I know you may think that it's possible to focus both on me and the road, but I just don't feel the same way. I think we should spend time away from each other when you're driving. It's for the best.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
What if you could keep the top economic experts in a conference room next to your office without having to feed them?
Do we need better optics? Do we need some substance? Do CEOs care about ESG?
We have seen quite a lot of stimulus pumped into the system already.
It's the biggest warning yet about the financial risks of climate change.
Now, there are more ways to hear us. Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business, Radio.com, and iHeartRadio apps, and at BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Welcome back to the Dog Show. Up next, we have Satchmo. Satchmo is a member of the Shelter Pet Group.
That's right, a group known especially for their couch-snuggling, ball-chasing, face-licking, and, of course, companionship. Now, let's see him in action.
Look how he makes eye contact with his person.
That's actually known as the treat stare.
How intuitive. And now he appears to be excitedly turning in circles.
The happy dance will come in with this group.
But really, the best way to know an amazing shelter pet like Satchmo is to meet one.
Visit theshelterpetproject.org today. Adopt.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council. Are you interested?
Do you almond? She doesn't almond.
Red lorry, yellow lorry.
She does almond.
Red lorry, yellow lorry. Red lorry, yellow lorry.
Doesn't almond.
Red lorry, yellow lorry.
Does almond.
Red lorry, yellow lorry. Red lorry, yellow lorry.
Almonds provide natural protein and nutrients to help fuel your day. Do you almond?
I spy with my little eye something beginning with P.
People.
No, para.
I'll have to remember my binoculars next time.
Although you might not be able to see it, your small actions can have a real impact with Shell. Every time you fill up and use Shell Go Plus, you'll be protecting and replanting forests around the world. Make the change. Drive carbon neutral. Shell. Go well. See goplus.shell.com/CO2 for details.
At the Bank of Santander, they've created Stan, a smart bot that can predict the future of remortgaging.
All right, Stan, will my mortgage rate go up?
1955 was the last time Newcastle won the cup.
No, and try not to mumble.
Playing, let's get ready to rumble.
Meanwhile, at Santander, they can't predict your future, but they'll help secure it with great mortgage rates fixed for up to 10 years. See what's possible at Santander.
Early repayment charges apply. Lending subject to status and criteria. Your home may be repossessed if you do not keep up repayments on your mortgage.
Hello, I'm your captain for today's Virgin Atlantic flight. Please drop everything and pay close attention to the following announcement. The sail is now on. Our crew are ready to take your bags and stresses away. The cocktails are ready to serve, the movies are loaded, and we're all set for takeoff to the Caribbean. So, take your seat in our award-winning economy class. We're ready to go when you are.
The Virgin Atlantic sail. Fly amazing for less. For more details, visit virginatlantic.com.
Pascal gobbles up the rebound and slammed it down.
Catch your favorite NBA team right here on TuneIn.
A step back deep three is up and in.
Search NBA on TuneIn and hear all the action. The NBA lives on TuneIn.
You might already know that TuneIn allows you to listen to all the pro sports leagues wherever you go. But did you know TuneIn is also home to the wide world of college sports?
Open three, DeAndre Hunter got it! Hand off Carruthers, big hole right side. He leaps and he surges in, touchdown!
From live college football, basketball, and baseball games to podcasts and coaches shows fueling your love for the game in your school. And the best part is, it's all free. Search college sports to find your team or league.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
Don't miss Super Bowl 54 because you can't watch the game on TV.
Nice hit over the left guard, touchdown!
Listen to every second of the action with your phone, tablet, computer, or connected device. All you need is a TuneIn Premium subscription.
Search Premium to upgrade today.
Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations. You'll also get live commercial-free news, plus live play-by-play games from NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
On the goal line, scores! It takes it home!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
Here's Pietrangelo, he scores!
Hear the action live on TuneIn Premium.
Gonna move, hit a shot, and he scores!
From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
4 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pelleton. Another leg lower for stocks as the selling intensifies. We are now at the low of the session. S&P down 39 points. That's a drop now of 1.2%. The Dow has tumbled 274 points, down 1%. And NASDAQ is down 113 points, a drop of 1.2%. The spread of a deadly respiratory virus is rattling global markets, sending American stocks lower and fueling demand for havens in government bonds and gold. Gold up now by 0.7%, $15.74 the ounce. The 10-year up 16.30 seconds, yield 1.67%. Here's where we stand. S&P down 39, down 1.2%. The Dow down 274, down 0.9. NASDAQ down 1.2%. Crude oil down 2.8%, $54.01 a barrel. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie Pellet, thank you so much. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Carol Massar along with Jason Kelly live on Bloomberg Radio and also on YouTube, Jason.
All right, so let's get into one of our most read stories of the day. I have to say, the minute I saw this morning, I knew it was going top of the charts, as did you. Jesse Westbrook is with us. He runs our financial regulation coverage here in the U.S., joins us from our Washington, D.C. bureau. All right. MiFID is one of these things, Jesse, that people are like, I
glaze
know what
over.
it is. But remind us what it is and what effect it has on Wall Street overall.
Wait, we're talking about MiFID? I thought we got to talk about something else.
You're on. This is an important regulation because I feel like Europe has really, in many ways, led the way.
Yeah, well, they've absolutely led the way. MiFID is this very esoteric rule that Europe passed a couple of years ago that made banks sell research separately to their brokerage clients, basically split it off from trading. In the U.S., we have a different system where you basically, if you're a big asset manager, you sign a contract with, say, Goldman Sachs, and it's a trading contract. And with that, you also get research. So banks have long used this basically to subsidize their analysis desks because they are paying for it with these lucrative trading fees. Europe thought that was conflicted for all sorts of reasons, one being that, the issues we saw back like 15, 20 years ago where analysts were giving high ratings to companies that their banks were underwriting. So Europe thought, well, if you eliminate some of those conflicts, it would be better for everyone. Research, the cost of research might go down. The research wouldn't be tied to the bank's business interests, so on and so forth. But this has all caused massive headaches for U.S. banks and U.S. regulators where we still follow a different system. Hope that makes some sense.
Mm-hmm. Makes lots of sense.
And so, people had been worried maybe about this happening. Even in the reporting, it feels like, well, nobody's really shocked about this, except that, this fundamentally changes the business model for a lot of people who work on Wall Street on both sides of the equation, right?
Yeah, so if you think about the fact that if you are a big asset manager and you no longer have to pay the trading fees to get the research, well, you might cut your contracts with, 5 or 6 banks. I just want their research. I don't want them to trade for me. I like Goldman for trading, so I'm going to get rid of the rest of them, just trade with Goldman, and I'll pay these 6 other banks that I want research from, and everyone else can sort of bug off. So that's the issue for the asset managers. For the researchers themselves, it could totally upend the business because, we think, I'm sure the researchers at banks think they're great. There's sometimes been questions about whether they're hesitant to lower buy ratings, so on and so forth. But if you put them in a dynamic where they have to stand on their own and be, a profit center or prove that their research is good in order to get people to pay for it as a standalone item, that's a completely different chain of events.
I love what you just said. Prove that their research is good. Isn't that what they should be doing? No offense, but I feel like the analyst community...
It's a knowing chuckle.
Right? The analyst community, I think we've often scratched our head about calls made kind of after a big move on a stock or, the conflicts of interest. And to me, somehow we're getting pure when it comes to the information coming out of Wall Street.
Yeah, I think that was the point of MiFID, and if this is the way that, like a lot of things in finance or any other business, if people find a better way and the customer wants a better way, and customers start demanding of banks, look, we like the way Europe is doing it, we make you a lot of money, big bank, we want the same thing here. It's hard for the Wall Street firms to say, no, you can't do that. It is a client business, right?
And so what do sort of U.S. regulators who you talk to all the time, you and your team talk to all the time, Jesse, did they see this as a key part of the sort of overall better regulation of Wall Street? Where does this fit into sort of the broader landscape?
Well, I don't know if they have an attitude that it's better regulation. I think that they basically are just in a scenario where there's been just a lot of knock-on effects. Yeah. It's been something that they've had to deal with. You can't just sort of sit back and say, we're going to ignore what Europe is doing, because all these global regulations are almost like a tapestry, and once you start pulling on one thread, it sort of affects what different jurisdictions do. And it really has been difficult for the SEC because, I mean, I don't want to get into it because it's almost, just too hard to follow. But in the U.S., if you are a broker and you sell standalone research, you technically have to register as an investment advisor. So, and with that comes all sorts of new investor protection rules, which brokers don't want those burdens. So the SEC has really had to grapple with that issue. Like, they don't want to just rip up their rule book and start over, because that's a big pain in the you-know-what.
But help me just really quickly. Banks can still set their own policy, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, the SEC sort of, they because they don't want to rip up their rule book, they've done things like, well, we didn't mean you couldn't do that, or we didn't mean you had to do this. So banks are still, sort of interpreting pursuing the policies that they want to pursue. But in a lot of instances, they're having to pursue the policies that customers want them to pursue.
Yeah. Right. All right. Well, it's great reporting. Thank you for helping us make sense of it, Jesse. As you well know, this is very, very closely watched here on Wall Street. I mean, we are talking about people's livings in some way. You and I both, Carol, know tons of Wall Street analysts. And so it's really interesting to get a really good and smart take on this. Jesse Westbrook, thank you so much.
That the structure's changing, right?
Totally.
And a lot has been changing slowly
and we've
over
got
the years.
more on that ahead. Even when it comes to IPOs, how you look when you go public, how your board looks. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on. It's a really, really interesting and important story. Goldman Sachs leading the way. This is Bloomberg.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Wall Street is seeing some of its deepest losses since last fall because of the spread of the coronavirus that started in China. The U.S. has confirmed 2 more cases of it, and the stock averages are falling 0.9 to more than 1%. The Dow is down 257 points, the Nasdaq 102, the S&P 37. And though this is the S&P's worst drop since October, one money manager tells Bloomberg it isn't like people are panicking. He says the market has just been reacting to headlines. But businesses that do business in China are already being affected by the virus. McDonald's has temporarily closed locations in 5 cities of the province where the virus originated. Disney will close its Disneyland resort in Shanghai effective tomorrow. And cognac maker Remy Cointreau is seeing its stock drop more than it has in 4 years. Sales in Hong Kong were down already over the Christmas holiday. The virus is threatening its business in China, where it makes 20% of its profit. Joan Doniger, Bloomberg Radio.
3, 2, 1. Oh no. Which button am I?
When every second counts, you can't wing it.
Guys, a little help up here?
In a home fire, you may have less than 2 minutes to get out. So make a family home fire escape plan. Then practice home fire drills at least twice a year so everyone knows what to do when they hear. Prepare your family at ready.gov/fire drill. Brought to you by FEMA, the Ad Council, and Make Safe Happen.
The Bloomberg Business of Sports podcast. How did the Yankees become this mega valuable team? Where the money is flowing inside sports around the globe.
From the marketing perspective, where are the dollars spent?
From union heads to team owners, Scott Soshnick and Michael Barr speak to the names that power this multi-billion-dollar industry.
Boston Red Sox CEO Sam Kennedy.
National Hockey League Commissioner Gary Bettman.
Bloomberg Business of Sports. Listen today on Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, or subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Are you interested in a challenging and exciting...
Here at Tesco, we're celebrating over 100 years of great value with even more great prices that take you back. Like a 6-pack of Mr. Kipling Angel Slices, now half price, from £1.80 to just 90p. All this week at Tesco.
Selected larger stores subject to availability. Offer ends 27th of January.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards, at the goal line, it's intercepted!
Listen live as the action unfolds, or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught, it is in for the right side for the touchdown to Keenan.
Search NFL today.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, It might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Don't miss Super Bowl 54 because you can't watch the game on TV.
Nice hit over the left guard. Touchdown.
Listen to every second of the action with your phone, tablet, computer, or connected device. All you need is a TuneIn Premium subscription.
Search Premium to upgrade today.
Start hearing more of what you want. Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations, live commercial-free news, and every live NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL game. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip
Bayless. Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Like what you're listening to? Want to make getting back to it easier? Use the favorite button to keep track of the stations and podcasts you love on TuneIn. Just tap or click the heart icon to add it to your favorites. Then find all your go-to audio under the favorites tab. Pretty easy, right?
Go courtside with the NBA on TuneIn. With the NBA on TuneIn, hear your favorite team and players take on their biggest rivals during the biggest games throughout the year, including regular season showdowns, the 2020 All-Star Game, and the NBA Finals in June, featuring the home and away calls for all 30 teams. Plus, with the NBA on demand, relive the best moments of the season by listening to the past games in their entirety. Listen to the NBA all season long on TuneIn.
On the goal line, Martin scores! It takes it home!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
Here's Pietrangelo, he scores!
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium.
A move, and a shot, they score!
From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
Studio in New York, Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C., Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston, Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco, Bloomberg 960 to the country, Sirius XM Channel 119, and around the globe, the Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Business Week.
You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week on this Friday. Carol Master along with Jason Kelly. Coming up, another of the most read stories. There really is a theme here, and it is about kind of changing over Wall Street. This story I love. It's about shattering of the glass ceiling. Women have accomplished it when it comes to one particular aspect of Wall Street.
Maybe it's with a green fist.
And now men want in.
Exactly.
It's typical.
Per usual.
All right, we'll get to that in just a moment. Let's get back to your top stories and an update on the trading day. We're seeing a bunch of selling, Charlie Pellin.
No green on Wall Street right now. The Dow, the S&P, NASDAQ, all lower. Developing story. France is now confirming 2 cases of deadly virus from China. That would be the first in Europe. The Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all lower. The spread of that deadly respiratory virus has rattled global markets, sending stocks lower. In fact, we are at or near the lows of the session. Again, another move lower since our last update. Here's where we stand. S&P down 39 now. That's a drop of 1.2%. The Dow is down 270 points, a drop there of 0.9%. NASDAQ down 113, retreating from yesterday's record, down 1.2%. 10 years up 17.30 seconds, yield 1.67%. Oil is lower for a 4th day on concern the outbreak will dent economic growth. West Texas Intermediate down 2.5% now, 54.21 a barrel. Brent is at 60.70, a drop there of 2.1%. Bloomberg Radio and Television caught up with European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, and we asked her if the ECB is on autopilot for the next 2 years.
To those who think that it's autopilot, I think that's ridiculous. There is a forward guidance which is strong, which is setting, a very clear timetable that is fact dependent. But let's look at the facts. Let's look at how the economy evolves. That's what we do. We need to be fact driven. We need to be clear in our communication, and we will be. And I'm saying today, don't assume that it will be on autopilot.
Sources tell Bloomberg Boeing is considering another cut to production of its marquee 787 Dreamliner as the aerospace giant contends with sluggish demand. Boeing shares down 1.3%. After earnings, American Express advancing 2.1%. Recapping the Dow, the S&P and NASDAQ all lower, S&P down 1.2%. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Charlie, thank you so much. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week here on Bloomberg Radio and on YouTube. This is Bloomberg.
Yes, it is. Certainly women and men having different experiences on Wall Street. We all know about that. We've talked about it a lot here at Bloomberg, done a lot of reporting, certainly on our different platforms. Well, this story plays into that. It is among our most read on the Bloomberg. It's about women shattering a particular glass ceiling. And now, as usual, men want in. I know. I'm just going to say it. All right.
It's true. Everything you say is true.
You looked at me like, I'm not going to go there.
Here she goes again.
Alistair Marsh is ESG reporter at Bloomberg News. He joins us on the phone from London. Alistair, we've been talking about your story a bunch. We're talking about the world of ESG. Men, tell us about the difference that we've seen in terms of men and women pursuing careers when it comes to ESG here.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on. And the ESG is one of those labels. Essentially, it's talking about a whole. Well, it's hard to necessarily distinguish exactly what it is, but it's trying to use your capital to do good or at least not do harm. Right. And you see that particularly with the BlackRock announcement recently that they're going to use their resources towards helping the fight against climate change. And this idea has been, or this domain has been kind of somewhat neglected for many years. There have been people on Wall Street and in the City of London who've been working in these kind of jobs that used to be called responsible investing or social investing. They've been doing this kind of thing since the 1990s, but really they've been just people in the corner, largely ignored, with no P&L, no importance, nothing. But now, given the increased focus on gender diversity on Wall Street and kind of more broadly in corporate America, and the focus particularly on climate and the kind of climate emergency that we're facing, these roles are becoming more and more prominent. And interestingly, they're staffed by women. So you actually have this strange dynamic where all of a sudden a number of women are elevated to positions of incredible seniority because every CEO and senior executive on Wall Street has to know what they are doing when it comes to climate change or kind of social issues, because really the last thing you want now is to be a company that is financing fossil fuels or in some way being aligned with the heavy carbon economy. You want to be able to say that you're transitioning your business to being green and sustainable and all the rest.
I have to say,
all of a sudden these positions are very high profile.
Forgive me for breaking it, but I have to say one thing. I was participating in a panel on women in media last night, and there was a woman who has been very established in the media world, but initially when she started out, she went into an area where for the most part, men weren't interested, and then built up something, and then all of a sudden everybody was interested. So go ahead, Jason.
Well, Alistair, one of the things that we wanted to ask you was, part of the reason you guys are writing about this, and we should point out that an incredibly well-timed initiative, a brilliantly timed initiative here at Bloomberg, Bloomberg Green, launched this week, a huge entrance in many ways globally, but especially at Davos. This was top of mind, top of the agenda at Davos, ESG investing, climate, etc. Why is it having such a moment right now in your estimation?
Well, the science is pointing, to be frank, it's kind of amusing in some ways because we've known about global warming for decades. It's not a new idea, but it just seems to be the science is pointing more and more to a crisis moment where we need to do something now. If we don't take action now, then we're really going to be in trouble. And at Davos, you have a combination of people like, Greta Thunberg, who has this sort of social momentum behind her, but then you also have not just sort of activists who, she was dismissed by Trump and various others at Davos, but you also have people like Mark Carney, who is kind of cut from the Davos cloth in many ways, a former Goldman banker, a central banker, clearly very respected, and he's also banging the drum. So it just seems to be to have elevated to the top of the global agenda, whether in corporate life or on the street.
Right.
It just seems to be, I guess, that we're at a moment of crisis where something has to be done, and therefore, yeah. I mean, cynically speaking, you could say Davos needs a theme. Last year it was diversity, this year it's climate, maybe next year it'll be something else. But
well, but it's an important moment for sure. And regardless of what you think about Davos and its importance or lack thereof, it does tend to set the agenda for the year when it comes to CEOs, heads of state, and others that are in attendance. Alistair Marsh, ESG reporter for Bloomberg, thank you for keeping a little part of your Friday evening open for us. He joined us on the phone.
Appreciate it, because it's a great story.
It's a great story, and really, as I said, part of this massive initiative, amazingly timed. Better. To be smart than lucky in some ways. Bloomberg really all over this at a moment where, as Alistair said, it's been around for a while, and yet it's having a moment.
All right, certainly. And Joe Tsai also having a moment. We'll get into that, this story in the magazine. First up, though, let's get back to world and national news. Here is Bob Mood.
Carol, why are Democrats pressing for new impeachment witnesses and evidence when the White House is already threatening to block the move? With a claim of executive privilege. House member turned prosecutor Adam Schiff says if President Trump thinks he can shield himself that way, there's one very large hole in his argument.
You cannot use executive privilege to hide wrongdoing or criminality or impeachable misconduct. And that is exactly the purpose for which they seek to use it.
Schiff spoke to reporters outside the Senate chamber as House members began presenting their third and final day of the case for impeachment, focusing on Trump's alleged obstruction of the investigation into his Ukraine dealings. Bloomberg's Irv Chapman is live with developments inside the Senate chamber. Irv.
Bob, as soon as the White House learned that a whistleblower filed a complaint about the president's activities, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries told the Senate the effort began to keep it from being publicly exposed.
White House lawyers began working to cover up the president's wrongdoing. They were determined to prevent Congress and the American people from learning anything about the president's corrupt behavior. But truth crushed to the ground will rise again.
Jeffrey said the president stonewalled Congress from first to last. Bob?
Irv Chapman, live on Capitol Hill. Thank you. China is expanding its lockdown against a deadly new respiratory virus to an unprecedented 36 million people. It's also rushing to build a prefabricated 1,000-bed hospital to deal with the outbreak. Global news 24 hours a day on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Bob Moon.
Why is delivering the best client experience a top priority at BNY Mellon's Pershing? Michelle Feinstein, Director of Client Engagement, explains.
Today's investors want a financial relationship that's on demand, customized, and leverages the latest digital technology. At BNY Mellon's Pershing, helping advisory firms and broker-dealers create great experiences for their clients is our priority. Through our integrated wealth experience, we give you a high-touch service, flexible technology choices, and expert insights, so you can deliver a highly personalized experience to your clients at every step, from onboarding to wealth planning, to performance analysis and more. And because we're part of BNY Mellon, you'll benefit from more than 230 years of strength and stability. At Pershing, we're personally invested in your success.
Visit Pershing.com to learn more about Pershing's integrated wealth experience. Pershing LLC and Pershing Advisor Solutions LLC are both members of FINRA and EPIC.
Message and data rates may apply. T&C and privacy terms can be found at babbel.com/terms. Please don't text and drive.
Have you wanted to speak a new language, but you thought it'd be too hard or take too much time? Then try Babbel for free by texting EXPLORE to 64,000. In just 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. And right now, you can try Babbel for free. Babbel starts out teaching you words and phrases by matching them with pictures. You won't believe how easy the interactive program is. Soon the sentences get a little bigger, and before you know it, you're having simulated conversations voiced by native speakers. And because Babbel is crafted by language experts and uses the space spaced repetition method, in just 10 to 15 minutes a day, you'll be speaking the language of your choice with real confidence. With Babbel, you can speak a language. Just text EXPLORE to 64,000 and start your first lesson in the language of your choice for free. Download the Babbel app or text EXPLORE to 64,000 and try it for free. Text EXPLORE to 60.
Did you know your favorite radio stations are in your pocket? Yes, the TuneIn app lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio anywhere you want. To see all the stations broadcasting in your area, find the local radio section on the home screen. Keep it local with TuneIn.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Don't miss Super Bowl 54 because you can't watch the game on TV.
Nice hit over the left guard. Touchdown.
Listen to every second of the action with your phone, tablet, computer, or connected device. All you need is a TuneIn Premium subscription.
Search Premium to upgrade today.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards at the goal line. It's intercepted.
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught. It is in for the right side for the touchdown.
Search NFL today.
Along the goal line, scores! He takes it home!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
Here's Pietrangelo, he scores!
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium.
Gonna move, hit a shot, he scores!
From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless.
Follow and TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Pascal gobbles up the rebound and slams it down.
Catch your favorite NBA team right here on TuneIn.
A step back, deep three, it's up and in!
Search NBA on TuneIn and hear all the action. The NBA lives on TuneIn.
Save your life. You took the first step, now take the next. Visit SaveByTheScan.org for a simple quiz to see if you're eligible and talk to your doctor about screening. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Why has J.D. Power ranked Commonwealth Financial Network #1 in independent advisor satisfaction among financial investment firms for the 6th straight time? We think it comes down to one thing: you. Because it's your input and feedback that keeps us focused on what's most important to you and your clients and continually pushes us to be the best we can be. Maybe that's why we receive top marks in every category of the J.D. Power 2019 Advisor Satisfaction Survey. They named us #1 in client support, #1 in firm leadership, #1 in operational support, #1 in compensation, #1 in professional development support, and #1 in technology support. Ready to partner with the best? Call Commonwealth at 866-462-3638 or visit commonwealth.com and feel the power. Member FINRA SIPC, a registered investment advisor. For 2019 J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com/awards.
25 years ago, NJIT graduate Dick Sweeney co-founded Keurig Green Mountain, a company whose incredible innovations changed the way the world brews a cup of coffee. Today, he lectures widely on business leadership and is a strong advocate for NJIT's work to combine business education with the power of STEM.
NJIT is definitely fostering the innovative thinking for budding entrepreneurs simply because that's the world we live in. NJIT is producing students that have been trained, educated, and given the business acumen to be a contributor to a company. The distinct mission is to develop great STEM scholars. The attributes I've always looked for in team members are heart, smarts, guts, and luck. So we want people with passion, intelligence, courage, and never discount luck. The student coming out of NJIT has experienced all of that.
NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology. Learn more at njit.edu.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pelletta. Down Friday, U.S. stocks bouncing along the bottom with the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all lower right now. We have got the S&P 500 index down 42 points. That's a drop of 1.3%. The spread of that deadly respiratory virus is rattling global markets. The Dow is down 272 points now, a drop of 0.9%. And the NASDAQ Composite Index also pushing lower. NASDAQ down 118 points, a drop there of just about 1.3%. 10-year up 17.30 seconds, yield 1.67%. Gold also higher today, up 0.7%. An ounce of the precious metal up almost $11 now at $15.73. The slump in crude oil continues. West Texas Intermediate down for a fourth day today. Right now, WTI lower by 2.6%, 54.16 for a barrel of West Texas Intermediate crude. So a sell-off on this Friday. Again, recapping here, S&P 500 index lower by 41 points. That's a drop of 1.3%. I'm Charlie Pelleton. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week on Bloomberg Radio.
All right, so let's jump into one of my favorite stories of the week, for sure. It's written by Ira Boudway. This guy is the hardest working man in Hollywood this week. He's got two great stories in this issue of the magazine. This one's about Nets owner, Brooklyn Nets owner Joe Tsai, talking about his ownership, talking about China, talking about firing his president. So many things. Ira's here with us in our Bloomberg Interactive Brokers studio. Joel Weber, the editor of the magazine, he's down in D.C. in our 99.1 studio there. Ira, first of all, congrats on a very big week. And tell us about Joe Tsai.
Joe was a big man in the news in October, and I think unless you were a follower of Alibaba, maybe you'd never heard of him until he bought the Nets outright, became 100% owner of the Nets in September, and then a couple weeks later, Daryl Morey's tweet goes out supporting the Hong Kong protests, and Joe writes an open letter basically saying, Daryl Morey, you don't know what you're talking about, and this is something that people in China are going to be deeply offended by. And suddenly this rocked the NBA and is still reverberating around the league.
So, okay, what a tricky to be in. First of all, though, I love how you kind of set the stage about Tsai. Because I think what's interesting is you say how he's this multicultural, I just was looking at the word, multicultural intercontinental identity, right? Mm-hmm. He just crisscrosses having had an education here in the United States, where he was born. Like, he's this interesting crossroads to be kind of an ideal communicator, one would think, on a topic like this.
Yeah, I mean, he has a really unique background, at least unusual. I mean, he's born in Taiwan. At the age of 13, he goes to an elite prep school in New Jersey, goes from there to Yale Law, works as a tax lawyer, works in private equity, jumps on with Alibaba very early on and becomes, for Alibaba, their bridge between East and West, because he can take Jack Ma's vision and translate it to the world of finance and to the legal world. And so he becomes, fantastically wealthy. And that same identity that you're talking about now has left him sort of as the bridge for the NBA, they hope, in dealing with China.
Well, was he a bridge? I'm sorry, Joel, forgive me. Was he a bridge on this, though?
I mean, the league was in a tricky spot. So when Joe Tsai wrote this letter, the league, I asked them about it because Joe said he sent it to the league first, and it was a pretty controversial thing. And the league said, we didn't look at it before it went out. They did not want to have any ownership over that. And I think the league is basically trying to ride this line of anybody can say what they want. What we are about is free speech and using the game as a platform for people to understand each other. But this is a tricky thing when you've got, people in Hong Kong in the streets battling police. Sometimes you got to take a side, and I think that's what they're dealing with now.
Which, that thing about voice is especially unique in the NBA, of course. So to that end, what did Joe see in the Nets? Why the Nets?
He was really just opportunistic, is the way he put it to me. Mikhail Prokhorov came to him, the previous owner, the Russian billionaire. They were looking to sell it, and they said, we're probably going to give you half now. And then Joe said, well, if we can do a deal where I get half now and the rest later, I'll do it, because he liked the finances of the NBA. One interesting thing about why the Nets, while he was doing that, the Houston Rockets came on the market. The team where Daryl Morey works, China's favorite team for a long time because of Yao Ming.
That would seem like a natural slam dunk. Just pick up that one.
Sure, but he said basically he didn't want to go to Houston all the time. So Brooklyn, New York, that just location was a big piece of it.
Well, and it's been an amazing story. The Nets themselves have been an amazing story. Sorry, Knicks fans who happen to be listening. They've become like the team here in New York.
Yeah, and that was, for Joe, that was luck.
Yeah.
So that rebuilding plan was in place under Sean Marks even before he bought his first half of the team. And then that plan of basically clearing salary cap space to go after big free agents this past summer, which worked spectacularly, getting Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant becoming the buzz of the league. Still see how that pans out if they actually get a championship out of it or become, a real contender. But for now, it's, at least in this market, they are the most interesting thing going and one of the most interesting teams in the league. And that's all. Joe kind of just walked into that. But yeah, it's quite a valuable thing he's got.
So, Ira, where does it go from here? Because obviously the controversy that he kind of found himself in the middle of wasn't expected. And yet, the China and the NBA have a long history already.
Yeah, one thing, one of the things that happened in the immediate aftermath of Morey's tweet was CCTV and Tencent pulling games. And Tencent has already come back to the table. They're starting to show games again. They're the digital partner for the NBA in China. CCTV is still not. And one of the things in my reporting for this story that I heard was that the league is hopeful that at All-Star Game in February, which was the first thing they ever showed back in 1987, the first NBA game on in China, that the league is going to be back on there. So it seems like they are in the background very quietly, sort of patching things up. And nobody really wants to say too much about it because they don't want it to blow up again, and then they want it to get back to normal.
Well, speaking of that, though, Tsai has lots to lose, too, if he alienates Beijing. There's a couple different layers in this story that we need to remember.
Right, and that was one of the things that was suggested to me in my reporting is that, Joe is in no position to really show even the slightest solidarity with the Hong Kong because Alibaba does business in China, and Joe cannot. And Joe being from Taiwan, which is sort of got its own issues with the mainland, there's going to be a certain level of suspicion around him and his loyalties. So he has to be out front saying, I'm on your side here, China.
Well, and meanwhile, here in New York, he made some swift moves there at the Nets, and you talked to him about his dismissal of a key executive. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so one side note in all this was when Joe became majority owner, he announced that David Levy, the longtime Turner executive, basically ran the show there for 33 years, was coming over to be his sort of day-to-day owner of the Nets, but also take over kind of leadership of this whole sports portfolio and try to make it something, that had some synergy to it and bring it all together. And less than 2 months later, Levy leaves. And everyone's kind of wondering what that was about, whether it had anything to do with the China situation. And the way Joe explained it to me was that basically they wanted somebody to do not just the big vision piece, but the day-to-day details, the P&L statements, and that David, having been at the top of Turner for 33 years, thought, no, that's not what I do. Right. I'm here for the vision, and I'll hire other people to do that stuff. And so they said, look.
Well, it's a great story and one that we know you'll continue to follow. One of two big stories that Ira Boudway has in the magazine this week. We're going to talk to him maybe next week about his other story ahead of the big game because there's a betting angle to it.
For the record, I asked for 3.
Yeah.
I was like, go for the trifecta. You're so close.
Exactly. So it's a failure, basically. All right. Ira Boudway, underachiever and global business reporter for Bloomberg, here in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio. Joel Weber down the line with us in our nation's capital. He joined us from our 9 studio. Listen, that's how you make your great magazine.
Well done, Ira. Two stories, and they're all great reads. All right, coming up, we'll check on the bond market, any of the economic stories that you've got to keep your eye on. And then coming up, another of the most read stories.
Go courtside with the NBA on TuneIn. With the NBA on TuneIn, hear your favorite team and players take on their biggest rivals during the biggest games throughout the year, including regular season showdowns, the 2020 All-Star Game, and the NBA Finals in June, featuring the home and away calls for all 30 teams. Plus, with the NBA on demand, relive the best moments of the season by listening to the past games in their entirety. Listen to the NBA all season long on TuneIn.
On the goal line, Martin scores! He takes it home!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
Here's Pietrangelo, he scores!
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium.
Gonna move, hit a shot, he scores!
From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
Don't miss Super Bowl 54 because you can't watch the game on TV.
Nice hit over the left guard, touchdown!
Listen to every second of the action with your phone, tablet, computer, or connected device. All you need is a TuneIn Premium subscription.
Search Premium to upgrade today.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg Radio.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. We move into the final hour of trading. We have got the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all declining. The spread of that deadly respiratory virus is rattling global markets today, sending U.S. stocks lower and fueling demand for havens in government bonds and gold. Here's where we stand with the S&P 500 index down 31 points, down 0.9%, close to the lows of the day. The Dow is down 162 points, down 0.6%, and NASDAQ is retreating from yesterday's record, down 86 points. That is a drop right now of 0.9%. The World Economic Forum's wrapping up in Davos, Switzerland, and Bloomberg Radio and Television are there. Earlier today, we caught up with Jacob Frenkel, the chairman of J.P. Morgan Chase International, and we spoke about the global economic backdrop as well as the interest rate outlook.
If we are talking now about a recovery, getting out of it, coming back to normalcy, I think that the zero interest rate has exhausted its benefits, and it's time now to think again, how do we come to the highway from this particular detour?
The 10-year up 15.30 seconds, the yield 1.67%. Gold up 0.5%, 15.71 the ounce. And West Texas Intermediate crude oil is down 2.5%, 54.22 a barrel. Sources tell Bloomberg Boeing is considering another cut to production of its marquee 737 Dreamliner. As the aerospace giant contends with sluggish demand, Boeing may have more to say about that next week when it reports earnings. Boeing shares, they're up right now by 2.1% at $325.18. Tough day for a lot of the airline stocks because of the spread of that deadly respiratory virus. We have got shares of American Airlines down 4.6%. Delta is down 3%. Investors having reservations about a lot of the hotel stocks. Marriott International down 3%, and Hilton tumbling now by 2.5%. So again, recapping here, equities lower across the board on this Friday with the S&P 500 index down now by 32 points. That is a drop of 1%. The Dow down 0.6%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash.
You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week with Carol Masser and Jason Kelly on Bloomberg Radio.
All right, let's talk a little Business Week economics, get a look at what's happening in the bond market and the broader markets beyond equities, and also in world economies, because it's been a topsy-turvy week, to say the least. Vincent Signorella is here with us, global macro strategist. Always like to Oprah his name. He's with Bloomberg here in our Bloomberg Interactive Brokers studio. It's the perfect name to Oprah.
Say, honey, when you call me, I just write Vincent Signorella.
Exactly. Andrew Husby also here with us. Sorry, bro, it just does not work as well.
Andrew Husby. Yeah, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work as well.
Never mind.
Neither do our names. He's with Bloomberg Economics, U.S. economist. Vince, I want to start with you. Talk to me about what traders talk about on a day like this, especially as the headlines around the virus seem to be driving the equity markets, at least. Broaden it out for me.
Well, the dollar does better on a day like this, and haven currencies do better. Gold is doing better. Mostly,
so it's risk off.
It's a very risk off day, which traders just don't fight. Even if they don't believe that this is really going to impact financial markets in a large way in the longer term, you sort of step aside, go with the flow a little bit. It makes no sense to stand in front of it. And then you look for opportunities to fade it, and you see where the Dow is now bouncing, cutting its losses almost in half after the Boeing announcement, the FAA saying that they may come to the max resolution sooner than mid-year. And so these are the opportunities. So you'll see havens risk coming back on after that announcement. Stocks will move up a little, dollar will move down a little bit, and it just flows across the board that way.
Yeah, that's, I think, a really good point. And you're right, as you said, we're kind of coming off our lows here.
Yeah, and I mean, you don't want to make light of this. Obviously, it's a terrible thing, and a lot of people are going to suffer from this, and we still have yet to know what the impact is.
Especially, I do think about the folks going into the weekend, because I just saw a story that says now some cases are a case in France. Right. So it continues to trickle out, right? And over the weekend, when markets are closed.
And good, bad, or indifferent, the one thing all traders are really saying is 900 cases, don't believe it. They look at this the same way they look at China data, with a little bit of a shady eye,
gimlet eye.
And that this is perhaps not that China's not necessarily reporting, but when you tell people in a city the size of 11 million people to stay indoors, not come out and tell doctors not to go to work for fear of catching this like they did in Wuhan, you by default, you're underreporting because you can't have people go to a doctor and say, you've got it, let me report this disease. So by nature, this is probably going to be a little bigger than we see.
Oh, okay, so you're underreporting. Okay.
Interesting.
Andrew Husby, come on in, U.S. economist. I mean, the virus, how are you guys looking at it on the economics team?
Right. It's early days, and I think what you mentioned there about this trickle probably getting a bit worse next week, and I think just the way the delay between someone getting it spreading, there's been a delay in terms of probably this travel restriction happening, so you'll see this keep dribbling out. So I think what we're looking at is, the main channel is its impact on the consumer, impact on sentiment. We don't expect to see that next week. It's a bit early, but I think in the chatter you hear in the office and the chatter you're hearing elsewhere, I think that there's maybe not outright fear, but there's if we see more come out, there's going to be some more caution, which on balance does weigh on that one sector of the economy which has been so strong. And this this dovetails into another thing we've been talking about. The Boeing impact in the first quarter could be substantial. On our estimates, at least a half percentage point on GDP, and potentially up to 1 percentage point.
I gotta say that Boeing story, man. Just when you think maybe they're coming out, figuring it out, then some bad news comes out, and I do wonder, like when you're on a trading desk, or folks, how they keep assessing that news.
It's difficult because you just don't know what the next shoe is to drop.
Yeah.
And with the Boeing situation, who would have seen this at the FAA coming today to save the day, if you will, or at least temporarily? But at the same time, everyone is in that agreement. Boeing's going to ding the economy by about 0.5%. The question is, does that continue to carry forward, or do we pick up in the fourth quarter if this is resolved? And so we're just delaying the growth cycle, perhaps.
Yeah, we'd expect the basically what you've had is a reduction in capex that didn't occur last year. That's been noticeable on growth, even in the third and fourth quarters. Basically, activity that didn't happen as planes weren't delivered.
Right.
So we would expect, as those deliveries happen, for investment to pick up in the back half of the year. Now that timeline's been shifting, and now it looks and it may continue to shift, and we don't know yet until there's a hard announcement. But we do expect the later part of the year to be a bit stronger.
Meanwhile, Fed meeting, next week, first of the year.
First one of 2020.
In 30 seconds, Andrew, set the scene for us. We're going to hear from Jay Powell for the first time in 2020.
Right. Jay Powell, it is largely a placeholder meeting, but we do expect most of the folks in the press conference to be around repo, around
Andrew,
some of these
Jay
other issues.
calling. He doesn't like that you're saying it's a placeholder.
Yeah. Well,
every meeting is a live meeting.
It is. It certainly is, but I think the Fed has well telegraphed the bar certainly to a hike is high. The bar to a cut is relatively lower in our view, but still, it's going to take a lot to move in an election year.
What do you think about Fed policy, just quickly?
I think Fed is doing exactly what they need to do. There's absolutely no reason to react at the moment. Wait and see what the data says. Be finally data dependent and not just move because we have to move just in case there's a recession. We'll have a place to cut from. So now they're back to basically where they need to be. The odds, there's better odds that they could cut going forward than hike. At least there seems to be that room with inflation where it is. But doing nothing is exactly what they should do.
Right.
Doing nothing sometimes is something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So profound.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Confucius Carol says.
Yeah, exactly.
Or something.
All right. Vincent Signorella, global macro strategist for Bloomberg, here in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio.
Thank you.
Nice job to you, and nice job to Andrew Husby, U.S. economist for Bloomberg.
I believe that's Andrew Husby. I'm sorry, Andrew. It doesn't work.
Yeah. It's Carol Masser.
Vincent Signorella.
Yeah, I'm going to take that one to the bank every day of the week.
Have a good weekend,
coming up, we're going to talk to Jeff Green, one of our favorites here at Bloomberg, longstanding reporter, so smart, and he's going to bring us some big news in the world of IPOs, in the world of investment banking as well. It's about diversity, and it's about big change that you have to think is going to be more widely adopted across Wall Street, which could fundamentally change the way corporate governance works.
Right, and it may still take some time, but I love that people are talking about it and setting some standards and saying, nope, no more, it's not acceptable. So we're going to get into that story in just a moment. All right, let's get a check on world and national news headlines. A lot going on in the world. Here is, once again, Bob Moon.
Carol, back before the Senate at this hour, Adam Schiff, as House members present the third and final day of their case for the impeachment of President Trump. His withholding of U.S. aid to Ukraine under the microscope today. Here's Bloomberg's Irv Chapman now live on Capitol Hill. Irv.
Bob, Chairman Schiff detailed the history of Ukraine's turn to the democratic West and said the president was ready to undermine it to advance his re-election prospects.
Ukraine's vote for independence was the final nail in the Soviet Union's coffin. That made Ukraine's greatest moment Putin's greatest tragedy. Countries like Ukraine are fighting our fight against authoritarianism. At least that used to be our fight, and God help us if it's not our fight still.
Schiff said President Trump had endangered U.S. national security by his willingness to abandon an ally, Ukraine, in the midst of an ongoing war. Bob.
Irv Chapman live on Capitol Hill. Thank you. It hadn't happened until today. A sitting president, for the first time, endorsing with his presence the annual anti-abortion gathering in Washington called the March for Life.
Today, as President of the United States, I am truly proud to stand with you.
President Trump used his speech to attack Democrats for embracing what he labeled radical and extreme positions on abortion. He praised those attending the event and claimed unborn children have never had a stronger defender in the White House. That potentially deadly respiratory virus sweeping China keeps spreading. France is confirming 2 cases of the virus have turned up there. 2 cases have been identified in the U.S., with one senator saying federal health officials are about to confirm a 3rd case. Global news 24 hours a day on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. I'm Bob Moon.
You can't be the only one who spends time examining angles,
This sort of mini deal, what would it look like?
considering possibilities,
From a credit perspective, this is good news.
planning for eventualities.
This company really has to get back on a growth track.
You're right. The others are here.
General Electric is such an interesting story.
Bloomberg Markets with Lisa Abramowitz and Paul Sweeney. Weekday mornings at 10 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Hi, I'm your host, Smokey Colbert, filling in for Smokey because after 75 years of...
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Turns out there's much more to say. Nearly 90% of wildfires are caused by us humans being careless. dumping our used barbecue coals willy-nilly? Guess the song was wrong. We did start the fire. That's why I respect Mother Nature and her trees, whether coniferous or new car scented. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
What if you could keep the top economic experts in a conference room next to your office without having to feed them?
Do we need better optics? Do we need some substance? Do CEOs care about ESG?
We have seen quite a lot of stimulus pumped into the system already.
It's the biggest warning yet about the financial risks of climate change.
Now there are more ways to hear us. Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business, Radio.com, and iHeartRadio apps, and at BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Melissa from Michigan. I work an extra part-time job serving lunch at my child's school, but I still can't afford to put food on our table.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Are you interested in a challenging and exciting career? One where you can be part of solving complex challenges across industries and geographies? Bloomberg's ever-expanding technology, data, news, and media services foster innovation, empower clients, and offer nearly limitless opportunities for career growth.
Whatever job you're searching for, you can find it on LinkedIn. First jobs, flexible jobs, keep me out the cold jobs, advertising jobs, accounting jobs, HR, PR, even ER jobs, East London jobs, West London jobs, extra hour in bed jobs, startup jobs, late start jobs, get home in the daylight jobs, banking jobs, building jobs, flexible working on a Friday jobs, or even voiceover jobs, which is how I ended up recording this ad. Search millions of jobs on LinkedIn and find one meant for you.
This is not a cat. This is not a rocket. And this is not a sale. That's right. At Smarty Mobile, we're not having a sale. While others are slashing prices, we're introducing our best ever new plans. Take our new 30 gig data SIM for just £10 a month. With unlimited calls and texts and no speed restrictions, credit checks or contract tying you down, why shop around? New plans, great value. Now that's Smarty. Grab yours today. Search Smarty Mobile. See smarty.co.uk for terms.
I used to be a bit of a rubbish sleeper. I'd toss and turn all night. And somehow I could never find the comfy bit of the mattress. It was a proper nightmare. That's what brought me here. Testing mattresses in the Which Test Lab. We use a custom-made barrel rolling machine to simulate a decade's worth of use. And the mattresses that perform best are the only ones we recommend for your bedroom.
Which tests harder so you can buy smarter. Visit which.co.uk.
Hello, I'm your captain for today's Virgin Atlantic flight. Please drop everything and pay close attention to the following announcement. The sail is now on. Our crew are ready to take your bags and stresses away. The cocktails are ready to serve, the movies are loaded, and we're all set for takeoff to the Caribbean. So, take your seat in our award-winning economy class. We're ready to go when you are.
The Virgin Atlantic Sail. Fly amazing for less. For more details, visit virginatlantic.com.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit tunein.com/premium to upgrade.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards, at the goal line, it's intercepted!
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught. It is in for the right side for the touchdown to Keenan.
Search NFL today.
Like what you're listening to? Want to make getting back to it easier? Use the favorite button to keep track of the stations and podcasts you love on TuneIn. Just tap or click the heart icon to add it to your favorites. Then find all your go-to audio under the Favorites tab. Pretty easy, right?
Don't miss Super Bowl 54 because you can't watch the game on TV.
Nice hit over the left guard. Touchdown.
Listen to every second of the action with your phone, tablet, computer, or connected device. All you need is a TuneIn Premium subscription.
Search Premium to upgrade today.
Pascal gobbles up the rebound and slams it down.
Catch your favorite NBA team right here on TuneIn.
A step back, deep three is up and in.
Search NBA on TuneIn and hear all the action. The NBA lives on TuneIn.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless.
Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
News 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. Down Friday, we are well off our session lows, but nonetheless red on the screen. How much red? Let's head right over to the first word break news desk for today's afternoon call. Here he is, Bill Maloney.
And good afternoon, Charlie. That's right. U.S. stocks under pressure due to the coronavirus headlines, but like you said, off their session lows, helped by Boeing. Now it's currently down 140 points, was down 317. S&P's dropped 28, while the NASDAQ declines by 74. The U.S. 10 yield at 1.69%. Gold is trading higher by 9. Small caps fall 16 points, and 10 of the main 11 S&P sectors are trading lower, led by losses in healthcare and the financials. Only utilities gained. Nasdaq Biotech's dropped 2.2%. Transports declined 83. Semis sink 1%, and the VIX is higher by 14%. Leaders to the upside in the Dow, Intel, American Express, and Boeing, while Dow Inc. and Merck led to the downside. After earnings, Intel soared as much as 9.4%. That's just in 2 years. American Express traded to an all-time high, and Discover Financial dropped 11%. Wrapping things up, Boeing jumped intraday on a report. The FAA told airlines that the MAX approval could come before mid-year. Live from the first breaking news desk, I'm Bill Maloney. Charlie?
Okay, we thank you very much, Bill. And to hear live breaking news over your Bloomberg-type squawk, SQUAWK on your terminal. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Charlie, thank you so much. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Jason Kelly, Carol Master, right here on Bloomberg.
The look of the corporate board, man, it may be changing. It could be the end of an era, the white all-male board.
Yeah.
Jason, go figure. It could be coming to an end.
Word you used in that lead-in was man.
Exactly, all male.
Yeah.
Often all white male. All right, so this story is among our most read. I got to say, Jason and I have been talking about a lot in the newsroom. Jeff Green wrote it, the one and only Jeff Green. He's managing diversity reporter at Bloomberg News. He's on the phone from Detroit. Love this story. Jeff Green, what's going on?
Oh, just another day in paradise.
Join the crowd. No, but this is important because, right, all the research out there about the importance of having diversity in boards, having more women on your boards, and yet you look at corporate boards and they're still consistently tending to be all male.
Yeah, and the knee-jerk reaction here is just to say, oh, Goldman's just doing a publicity stunt. But to say it, I mean, to look at the reaction on Twitter and in LinkedIn and other places, they're taking a lot of heat for saying this. So it's not something you just casually toss out there. Yeah. This is one of those things that's come out recently where it's like they've said something that no one said before.
And remind us what they said.
Okay, so what they said was, in the future, we will not underwrite any IPOs where the board doesn't include at least one diverse member, and starting next year, it needs 2. And they define diverse as being a woman, a person of color, or somebody who is LGBTQ. Yeah. So, which is also new. I've never really seen anyone sort of expand that definition to include LGBT.
I do feel like David Solomon's Goldman Sachs is going to be a very different Solomon Brothers. We've already seen it. And
Goldman Sachs.
I'm sorry, what did I say?
Well, he said Solomon Brothers.
I did say Solomon
Brothers. Maybe he's just going to rename that. That would also be bold.
That's a blast from the past. Forgive me. David Solomon, of course, of Goldman Sachs. But I do think, Jeff, he really is, trying to push for change in a big way when it comes to not only his firm, but maybe much more broadly in terms of Wall Street.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the kind of thing when I first saw it, I thought this, I wasn't really sure, like, how many IPOs did they do where there were, no women or no people of color, but they did do some. I mean, they said less than 10% of the IPOs they have done in the last 2 years meet that criteria, but that means that they would be giving up at least something if they move forward with this. So it's not a nothing burger kind of announcement. Well, and it definitely got a lot of attention, like you said, on the terminal and on the web.
I just have to say something, because I remember somebody bringing this to my attention.